Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Thank you for tuning on in. And we are here with Week 7, Day 3 of the Overwatch Pacific Championship. And gentlemen, it's DeToNator Day.
DeToNator Day. Everyone's had their day this week. You've had Flash Wolves Day to start with on Friday, AHQ Day yesterday, DeToNator Day today.
Blank had to share AHQ Day though.
Yeah, they didn't really get
it's like a pseudo blank day.
That's the thing, they had a blank day. Anyway, DeToNator Day, they're going to be taking on Hong Kong Attitude, immediately followed by Matchy Esports. And with that, let's meet DeToNator, or Hong Kong Attitude actually. Let's maybe start with them.
We'll start with Hong Kong Attitude because DeToNator get all the glory later on. They do have pretty hard matches though for them having a double home day situation. It's against the the 4th and 5th ranked team in the tournament.
But the thing they do bring into this is Friday's result versus AHQ, where they it was yesterday's result, where they took a map off them, which was a little unexpected and actually a strong performance. So that's what DeToNator carry into this, and maybe that's something they can build upon here, because if they can beat anyone, it's going to be these two teams.
And that's the big thing about it being their home day, right? Getting those 2 home matches in a row.
GOLD というメンバーが結成されて、ろくにあまりほとんどコミュニケーション取れない状態で一気に共同生活っていう場に放り込まれたんですけど、みんな気遣いもできる人で、マナーも最低限わきまえているので非常に快適ですし、他のメンバーで良かったなと思います。
There you have it, DeToNator. And by the way, that was in Japanese, which is why we weren't translating it. Just for those of you who are unsure of the difference. But DeToNator are a team that have kind of come into this with a bit of something on their shoulders here. I mean, they were the more well-regarded of the 2 Japanese teams, but the only team they've been able to beat so far has been the other one. So even now, there is a shot at redemption, and they are hungry for it.
Got a little quick interview as well.
我是 DeToNator。
There's DeToNator, one of the main
来台湾已
supports
经
of the
7
team.
个礼拜的时间，会用中文自我介绍了。
自己紹介は日本。
I like it.
DeToNator でサポートやってるドテロフです。この紙に負けないぐらいの意気込みでプレーをしていきたいと思います。で、そして、日本にもDeToNatorがあるんだぞっていうような知らせるようなプレーをしていきたいと思います。
帮我们翻译一下，我日文还没有那么好。
他是表示说非常感谢大家的支持。那他是 DeToNator 的辅助位的 DeToNator， 然后今天会让大家知道，就是日本其实有一个队伍叫做 DeToNator， 然后我们不输给其他的队伍。然后今天他会以不输给他头发颜色的气魄，然后战胜2支队伍。谢谢。
谢谢副长翻译，也谢谢 DeToNator， 谢谢。
We're here to beat other teams. And just like the color of my hair, we're here to, I guess, bring the fire, or just, kind of similar to the color of his hair.
Bring the gold?
Yeah,
maybe that's what it is.
That's probably more
That's
accurate.
the gold. The rest of the team is the DeToNator. He's the gold. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So let's kind of break down what happened earlier this week against AHQ and how they can actually leverage the good things from that into these 2 matches.
Well,
any thoughts?
It's their home day, so they still get to pick Assault, which means, hey, maybe they'll pick up Volskaya again. And because, look,
that actually was the one they won.
Yeah, I love using the example of a team beating another team on Volskaya. So DeToNator, they could just do it again today in both of their matches, because we're always going to go to Volskaya, because we're always going to go to at least, always going to Assault, because we're always going to at least 3 matches no matter what, which means they always get that pick. So realistically, this is actually a pretty strong thing for them.
At the same time, I think if we look at yesterday's results and also just the tournament in general, Matchy and Hong Kong Attitude have been fairly decent Assault teams themselves, especially with Hong Kong Attitude yesterday against Blank on Assault. So, I mean, that really tells a bit of a story. And if Hong Kong Attitude have that in their checkbook, so to say, yeah, DeToNator have that against AHQ, it will be at least I would say Assault to be fairly competitive.
Yeah, though I will, once again, kind of, with the standings here, we can now kind of bring attention to it, right? If they could take a map off AHQ, you feel like they can take a little bit more off Hong Kong Attitude and Matchy, just based purely off where they sit relative to those other teams in the standings, right? I mean, neither Hong Kong Attitude or Matchy have actually beaten AHQ, if I'm not mistaken. And I think maybe Matchy have taken a map off them. That's really it. It doesn't mean that DeToNator is like inherently better than those other teams. Like, that's not exactly how it works. That's not how looking at teams comparatively works. But there's a precedent now, and that is something that can be followed through on. So with that in mind, because you might mentioned home day, what might we expect actually about out of control? That's the question.
Both the Japanese teams have shown a massive preference for Lijiang Tower. I don't think we've seen them pick anything except those maps, except occasionally throwing an oddball.
DeToNator picked, I believe, Oasis against Sun Sister.
Yeah, we've seen one Oasis out of the two teams, but that is something that they could potentially bring out. And we've often seen, especially when these teams have their home day, they prep a control map and an assault map, which they then pull out against both teams.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can do that. That's what AHQ did yesterday for their both back-to-back home sides. I think DeToNator have the capability to do that as well, but it's not. You also don't have to. It is also important to prep specifically to the team you're going to be facing as well. And Machi and Hong Kong Attitude are not the same team by any regards. So.
No, certainly not. Machi and Hong Kong Attitude as well are both quite comfortable in Lijiang. So maybe that actually stands as an argument for going over to Oasis.
It could come out. Because DeToNator, they only picked it up against Sun Sister, in my opinion, and also AVRL did say when they actually played recently, was because Sun Sister do prefer Lijiang Tower as well, so why not pick up a map that you're comfortable on, but the other team is not? Now, we know that Machi and Hong Kong Attitude, like you said, they're both pretty comfortable on Lijiang Tower. I think most teams are pretty comfortable on Lijiang Tower, but DeToNator have shown that they're fine to go to Oasis. They're pretty happy for it, so we might actually see that come out. I would not be surprised. I mean, I think it's kind of a 50-50 if they want to stick with the comfort of Lijiang Tower, or if they want to try and shake things up and really go for a win.
Certainly there isn't any evidence of anything other than Lijiang and Oasis.
I also think for DeToNator, they want to be able to leverage Anakin a lot here. So when we look at Assault and we look at Anakin playing something like a Sombra and Assault, still not too convinced by that. You want your star player to be on your DPSs. Stick him on the McCree where he's good, stick him on Genji or even Tracer. A lot of these picks so far have been really good for Anakin, and if they really leverage him, this is where DeToNator pull their head. This is how they also did extremely well against AHQ with as well, specifically enabling Anakin as your primary DPS damage output.
And I think we kind of have to bring up as well, in that series against AHQ, it's not like they only won Assault and like it was just really, really good and then they were just kind of average on the rest, right? They did actually come kind of close on First Control and then Hybrid as well. Are there any things we can kind of pull out of those performances that we may want to bring up tonight in terms of where this team is kind of looking?
So DeToNator in the control match, I think the map that they beat AHQ on was Gardens specifically, and I feel like a lot of that was really leveraging any advantage that they could get whenever AHQ looked a little bit uncomfortable. Now, that's not something you can always rely on when you're playing against enemy teams, but then again, what team plays perfectly 100% of the time? So this is an opportunity for DeToNator to do that, and one thing that I was impressed in terms of how they've improved over time, and something that they have sort of fixed at least, is that they're okay with jumping on their advantages. If they take out one guy at the start, then they're not scared of going in for that 6v5 anymore and just, you know, using their muscle power with their numbers advantage.
Yeah, well, taking a look at DeToNator, and we'll also get a more in-depth look at the members of the team as well and their picks. Of course, the lineups of Hong Kong Attitude as well flashing across your screens. So, is there anything we want to identify out of DeToNator? I mean, you mentioned Anakin and the Sombra for Assault, but I mean, he's generally been one of their superstar DPSs, right? Like, we talk a lot right now about superstar DPSs like Dizzy and like Zonda. Is DeToNator also a team that can be leveraging Anakin in the same way?
They should be. They absolutely should be. And if they're not, they're going to be, I would say, a little bit far behind. They also want to enable Saihate by leveraging Anakin's star power. It draws attention to Anakin, which takes pressure off of Saihate, which then kind of indirectly enables their other DPS. So that kind of really works out for them. And Saihate started off as a I think he was actually the main Ana player to start things off within the competition. Now he's moved on to DPS, I guess permanently. Yoshiharu as well has been sort of half Diva, half Soldier, I guess more leaning towards Diva recently.
Yeah, this being Dotlov, arguably their main support, and much as Saihade was initially their Ana, Dotlov was actually pretty much strictly Lucio, so it was kind of taken on the more generalist support role since then. This here is the man we're talking about, Amiken.
Absolutely. He's the guy that came out swinging on day number 1 against Blank. And I think he's personally been swinging ever since. It's just unfortunate for DeToNator they never had the chance to kind of catch up, but I believe this has been their best week so far.
And now coming on to the team that they're going to be facing first is Hong Kong Attitude. You saw just there Mango, and now followed by K4. These two players have actually played together for quite a long time. Way back on Bong Mi, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. So they've been playing together. They've got a lot of synergy. They bring it up in interviews a lot as well. So I think that's another big strength that Hong Kong Attitude can utilize for a lot. But then again, we're 7 weeks deep into this tournament. Synergy is going to start to be a thing for a lot of other teams as well.
Certainly is, yeah. I mean, at this point, every single team has had a good amount of time playing together. And even then, there are other teams in this tournament, like Blank especially, played together for an extremely long time beforehand. Various members of Flash Wolves and AHQ played both with each other and against each other at various points. So, I mean, that also has the advantage of knowing how the other team plays. So you're completely right there, Smite. I mean, synergy is starting to become a bit of a given among all of these teams, with maybe some slim exceptions. But even then, yeah, something that every team has.
Hong Kong Attitude had a decent run against Blank yesterday as well, so I think if it was a much weaker performance against Blank, I'd be kind of concerned for DeToNator. Well, no, I'd be much more concerned for Hong Kong Attitude against DeToNator. Right? But currently it does look like Hong Kong Attitude are very much a team that I would believe are ahead of DeToNator. And DeToNator are going to struggle. This is not going to be easy for them, but the recent performance against AHQ has said that they're ready and have now stepped up a bit. Maybe not enough so, but we'll have to find out.
Even just in terms of standings, right? DeToNator are the team who come into this with something to prove.
I mean, even just 1 week ago, if we were having this discussion, it would come down to DeToNator.GOLD are a team that have only beat the team below them and only twice. And whenever they play against teams above them, our story is usually the same. Taking 1 map, taking 2 maps should be a win for them. Tonight is completely different after how they performed against AHQ. It's now, the only win for them right now is actually winning the series, beating Hong Kong Attitude, because now we believe that they actually can do it.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It actually is. Like, it's been a sign of progress, even though, functionally speaking, you're right, the actual standings, the score lines haven't really changed. With that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at the matches coming up tonight, because of course it is DeToNator's night, so they are taking the home field for the first 2 games. First against Hong Kong Attitude, and then immediately afterwards they will be playing Matchy Esports, who, funnily enough, are only 1 win above Hong Kong Attitude themselves. Immediately following that, Matchy will then go on to play the second Japanese team and current last place team in Sun Sister, and we will round out the day with Blank taking on Fireball.
So one interesting thing about the standings is this is kind of a really important time for Hong Kong Attitude and also for Matchy, and I would say less so in terms of their ability to make playoffs with DeToNator. So for DeToNator, Sun Sister, and even Fireball, the opportunity to make playoffs is kind of, at this point, in standings, kind of impossible, and also in terms of skill, I would say kind of impossible at this stage for Hong Kong Attitude and Matchy. They're not that far off, so a loss for Hong Kong Attitude would be a much bigger deal currently than a loss for DeToNator.
Yeah, like in the strictest mathematical terms, technically the window hasn't closed yet. That doesn't happen still for another week-ish, but yeah, functionally, in terms of skill level, it's as good as shot. Unless you're maybe Matchy, and even then, we have been questioning that lately. We know where the path for that would be, but we've been questioning it. So Mappic has actually come through, and well, there you have it. They have gone over to Oasis. Like we said, it's not unsurprising. We felt it was kind of 50-50, but I'm kind of going to go out on a limb here and say I think they may have actually prepped Oasis for tonight specifically.
I mean,
absolutely.
They prepped Oasis for Sun Sister. They've prepped Oasis previously. They brought it up against Blank. So I mean,
And by that, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we then also see it after this against Matchy.
Now, the one thing I want to bring up about Oasis for DeToNator, apart from everything we've already said, is that on University, that 1 map with that hole in the middle, right? A lot of teams some of them like to bring out Sombra, and DeToNator are a team that any opportunity, hey, Atmakin, do you want to swap onto Sombra for us? And he will. Yes. He'll jump at the chance, right? So,
but then I can't play Pharah.
But this is where it comes into play, right? If he is going to be on Sombra, like you guys have been saying, that's one of the DPS slots now taken away by Sombra instead of a healer, which means they're left with one DPS and then one kind of half DPS, which has a bit of assassin potential, but no real just consistent amount of damage, like something like a soldier or even a tracer can bring.
Yeah, I think you're pretty much spot on with that, actually. Okay, that's correct. Do we have anything about the other members that we actually want to touch on here for Oasis? Because we have spoken a lot about Anakin. Like, what else is this team actually doing? You don't just win because...
Yeah, like I said, this is about making room for Saihate specifically. If he's going to be playing Soldier, he needs the room. He needs Anakin to take as much pressure off him as possible. And you want the other team to focus Anakin, because Anakin is a guy that can... He's also played reasonably well under pressure as well. Whereas I feel Saihate is a bit more fresh on the DPS here for DeToNator, and he needs a lot more room to play with than Anakin does.
And I think a way for them to hedge their risks with that, Saihate on Soldier, right, is Yoshiharu. They have a great defensive diva who does do very well and actually protecting key members like Saihate. Not quite to the level of Lazy Titan, but still an acceptable job, right? So I think that is an advantage for it.
We'll see you on the other side, Smite, after this one. And I heard a Torbjorn. It's obviously been changed off, but for a moment there I was hearing a Torbjorn. In any case, out the gates now, and probably not too much of a surprise, really, actually. DeToNator are going to go ahead and run that Pharah Mercy combo.
Yeah, they had the option not to. They're going to go for it anyway. That's absolutely fine. Ends up being a pretty good read because Hongo Attitude not going to run anything like a Soldier just yet. They have to deal with the fact that it's Tracer Genji, but so far they're winning the ground battle. They're ignoring the Pharah in the sky. They're saying we can't deal with that. We're just going to beat everything on the ground.
Exactly, and Jinkao doing a good job actually of wasting Anakin's time. I mean, Anakin wants to be firing rockets onto K4 and Shaolin, really, and possibly actually catching the healers as well, as much as CQB can be a bit of a slippery fish. So well played by Hong Kong Attitude to just react to it as soon as they saw it.
Anakin's only real targets here are essentially CQB and Mango Jai. He's not really going to be able to target Shaolin without really good prediction.
Yeah, may get a lucky rocket or two.
Really good prediction of where Shaolin's sort of movement's going to end up. Oh. The K4 as well is going to be very difficult to hit.
Yeah, good bump onto Samurai D. They do get the trade back onto K4. Actually, Yoshiharu getting his own bump over the edge there. Kind of evens it off for a moment, but Yoshiharu out of the mech and losing Saihate means that once again DeToNator look to be pushed back here.
Yeah, still losing mechs just here and there. So I mean, I want to see a little bit more impact out of Anakin to sort of get things going, because so far he's not really picking up the kills. I can't really tell what his damage output is like either. And this is absolutely not taking any pressure off Saihate. I've said you kind of need to enable Saihate a little bit. But when you look at Hong Kong Attitude, they're more or less ignoring Anakin for the most part. They're dealing with him in the sense that we know you're there, we've acknowledged you exist, but we're not going to spend too much resources to really chase you.
Yeah, now Hong Kong Attitude have the ultimates in their favor. DeToNator, if they can get this res up, could swing it if they draw those ultimates out and then tempo res. And actually they are starting to do that. A Ting already forced to ult. No res available just yet. Anakin needs to be careful where he shoots those rockets. He's in a tight and close space, doesn't really have anywhere to flee to, and got separated from Dotolov, and that's going to be all it takes to take him out of the fight. They've still got the race to go on here. Now Hong Kong Attitude going to throw out the Transcendence to keep themselves peachy and rosy through this one, and again, the retreat is flagged for DeToNator.
I think for Anakin as well, he got a little bit, he really wanted to start, I guess, to start to get some kills, and he went for a chase inside the narrow hallway, got himself locked in there. As soon as he went in there, Jinkao says, I'm going to lock you here, and you will die, and absolutely, he goes for the rocket barrage, suicides himself with that as well. Straight afterwards, you know, no one else to play on, Dotolov goes down, so doesn't get anything done with the res there. DeToNator is still looking for an opening, 95% for Hong Kong Attitude, and it feels like DeToNator haven't found anything.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to fight through this Dragon Blade and then the Sound Barrier, good defensive ultimate sitting there for Hong Kong Attitude. Delay have already picked off as well, means no Sound Barrier for themselves. They're going to have to get a huge res here as they actually they've got this ultimate out of K4, but unfortunately losing Yoshiharu in that Dotolov already kind of getting damaged upon. They're starting to get some trade backs though as they pick off K4. CQB doesn't actually want to commit this Sound Barrier. I think that's actually a smart call, good patience. They'd already lost most of the DPS, and now it's just all about closing out on these tanks here for DeToNator. They do find their opening, very well executed.
Yeah, 4-man res ends up being enough. Could have probably gone for the 5-man there. Losing Yoshiharu didn't end up being a huge problem. I think the biggest deal there for Hong Kong Attitude is they didn't have any more offensive ultimates to get the cleanup again. So the fact that DeToNator come back up with 4 members, Hong Kong Attitude couldn't close that out. Usually it would also be a very risky situation because you just kind of risk your team getting wiped twice in a row. That didn't happen for DeToNator, and for the first time so far on Gardens, they have a little bit of control here.
Yeah, Anakin going down right at the top of that fight. Had actually changed over to the Soldier, which I do like. Good trade back onto K4 despite that sound barrier coming through and DeToNator committing one of their own. So it's still kind of anyone's game, but Samurai D is forced to commit that ultimate around the same time as Ting, actually. And Ting is the one finding more mileage with it, picking off Dotlov, and that's going to be the Transcendence out of Mango Jai, should steer them through the remainder of this fight. And Hong Kong Attitude looking set to cap this one back, and at 99% should be able to close it out as well. Anakin valiantly trying with that tactical visor, but no dice.
Anakin getting killed pretty early then, coming back to the respawn, then just dying again. Really unfortunate from Dotlov as well. He was 1 second off from getting the sleep dart. Not going to get that in time.
Is that a contest?
Down now. Not going to be any contest.
Good boop to actually force Samurai D away from that point. He may have actually been able to get a foot on it had it not been for that. I did like that Anakin swapped off that Pharah at a point and went over to the Soldier. It brought them some success in that fight. Unfortunately, they couldn't swap off the Mercy just yet. They still kind of wanted to use the res, which is pretty fair enough, but they ended up having to swap at some slightly awkward times. Never did actually get a nano boost out of the Ana, so maybe this Pharah Mercy is becoming a bit of a broken crutch for them.
Look, it took them about 3 fights to realize this pharmacy is not working. Well, it's too late to swap them.
Yeah, pretty much, but they do actually have more maps. That's one of the good things about Control. So,
at about 95% is about when they decided it wasn't going anymore, and specifically after Anakin suicided himself with the rocket barrage. The only reason, as you said, Dotlov didn't swap off the Mercy because he wanted to go for the res, which worked out for his team, but you know, the Ana would have been preferable, I guess, earlier.
Yeah, well, they're going to be coming out on the second map in just a few moments here. So, yeah, I'm excited to see if they actually kind of make that adaptation now, if they don't really bother for the Pharah again. We'll like to see.
Yeah, next map, we're actually going to City Center as well, which will be really interesting for both teams here. This is where I don't expect Anakin to start with the Pharah anymore. I think Anakin really, after that last performance as well, didn't even have to go up against a Soldier, didn't have to go up against any strong resistance. It's just like, even as Tracer and a Genji, just kind of shutting down Hong Kong. So just sort of shutting down DeToNator. So that's really all it was there.
Well, in any case, already the opening skirmish should go the way of DeToNator, but Hong Kong Attitude kind of swinging back to that one.
22% in the way of DeToNator, which is pretty good so far. Hong Kong Attitude, they're sort of winning this fight, but they haven't got the cap yet, and it's still bleeding progress in DeToNator's favor, which isn't really working out. You got Hong Kong Attitude with K4 on the high ground. No one's really getting the cap until about not even now.
Yeah, there's actually keeping this one completely on lockdown, honestly. Sahari only just went down there, and before doing so had secured 2 kills. So now Hong Kong Attitude, again, I feel like they're constantly on the cusp of swinging back, but DeToNator had been well enough set up that it's not until Hong Kong Attitude had now claimed this high ground as well as getting kills that they've actually been able to get the cap through.
Took them about 15%, nearly 20% to just get the final moments of that cap, but DeToNator did something. It was either a mistake on Hong Kong Attitude's part to not seriously commit members onto the cap, or DeToNator somehow just didn't have members. They had a member on there contesting that didn't die. Whatever it was, Hong Kong Attitude spent a long time not putting progress on their board, instead losing a lot of progress to DeToNator, who, by the way, still have a ton of ultimates to come back in with.
Well, in any case, yeah, DeToNator, they got the round of them. Anakin already using the recall there, so see how DeToNator fare on this one. They're actually able to get themselves onto this point. They will need to contest that high ground, though, at some point, because K4 is well set up there. They don't quite have the nano boost for the tactical visor, rather, but he's going to open up with said tac visor. Already getting pressured out, though, so he's not getting anything for it. The sound barrier was there to keep DeToNator alive through it anyway. They haven't actually secured the kills, and Saihari finding nothing really with his own visor, and now goes down, actually, Hong Kong Attitude, despite getting nothing for their tactical visor. DeToNator didn't use that window to close out kills. Maybe that sound barrier coming out a little too early as well, and Hong Kong Attitude keep that one secured. DeToNator using all of their resources.
And the timing for DeToNator was really unfortunate because, like you said, all ultimates gone, no results to show for it. Yeah, K4 used a tac visor, didn't get a kill. Saihate also got no kills with his tac visor, but even worse, he got taken out at least. K4 managed to get out alive, managed to get back in there with his team and consolidate onto kills as well. So Hong Kong Attitude still keeping control of progress as they're taken up to nearly 80%.
Nearly 80% indeed. I mean, this is after we said Hong Kong Attitude kind of gave DeToNator a lot more than was really necessary.
They could be in overtime now.
Yeah, like actually DeToNator are kind of struggling to get back on this one themselves anyway, so all's well that ends well. And Saihade already getting picked off. DeToNator, what is the setup? They're just flying into the sky with absolutely no room for control or room to fight back while K4 sits there and shoots them. They look like clowns.
Not only that, but Shylin sort of just joining in there.
Yeah, just bouncy castle.
He's in there bouncy castling with them, but he's adding into the damage.
And now they're in overtime. So that was a completely useless, like, not even set up for DeToNator. It looked like they were just having fun.
They're gonna have fun losing in a moment if they continue that, I guess. But what I was trying to get out of that is perhaps DeToNator were trying to get in position on the high ground, kind of half realizing also that maybe that would have been a bit dangerous. So they decided,
suddenly realized everyone was on the high ground.
Then they realized, okay, we're not going to go on the high ground. Let's go back down the jump pad. Oh wait, if you go back down, you jump back up again. Yeah. So and now we're just stuck in the air.
They're just stuck there while K4 is waiting for them to come back up each time. That was
if you're K4, you had a pretty easy run right at the end there, just shooting members up and down the sky.
This is with DeToNator knowing that K4 had been set up there ever since Hong Kong Attitude took the point and the high ground. Like, why not just send a D.Va and Winston up there using their movement abilities rather than trying to take this jump pad that Hong Kong Attitude have on lockdown?
So this is going to be something different out of DeToNator. Not going to run the Sombra. I really like that because, like I said, you don't want Anakin to be on their Sombra. You want it to be on something powerful like McCree.
Triple tank.
And its shield composition as well. Protect Anakin, let him get the kills, you'll do pretty well.
Yeah, I'm liking this setup here. Yeah, protect Anakin, let him get the kills. They already pick off a Ting. Anakin doing a good amount of work and Saihade closing it off. And I also like Saihade on this Hog, specifically when they run this triple tank. Meanwhile, CQB is going to run the Sombra, but they're not really getting much mileage for it. They've kind of got this health pack off to the side, but DeToNator, they got a good amount of healing to come out of the Ana here, and the self-heal on Saihade means it's not like they're going to be getting super low and in dire need of those health packs anyway.
I would have preferred the D.Va here over Yoshiharu's Xayah. Specifically, you're playing against the Sombra here, and Sombra's going to do extremely well against shields. You're going to lose the Reinhardt shield. You're going to lose all the Xayah barriers, as well as Xayah's personal shield as well. So CQB could do quite well.
It's a nice catch onto a Ting there, actually, in the anti-heal to come through as well to stop the Orb of Harmony, which was actually on him. Anakin is really kind of keeping this one on lockdown. They're not getting a lot of kills, but the ones they're getting are very key members at very key moments.
The really good thing for DeToNator is because they have control of the actual point itself, Hong Kong Attitude are not in a position where they can really set up a nice EMP. You want to have control of the point, therefore you get control of the health packs as well. That's not something Hong Kong Attitude have in control of, so here we go. EMP time could come very, very soon. There it is.
There's the opportunity, but they've already lost K4, and Shylin is kind of having to retreat from this. They're getting a good number of kills through, have dealt with most of the tanks. Anakin trying to get something out with this Deadeye, but it's not safe for him. Goes down, only taking Shylin, and they were able to get enough out of that EMP. Honestly, DeToNator, I feel like they kind of dropped the ball on that.
Well, like I said, EMP was always going to be extremely effective against DeToNator's lineup. Specifically, you're running Xayah and Reinhardt into it. The Reinhardt's okay, but the Xayah is severely going to be affected by the EMP, which is really not what DeToNator are going to be, not what they want in their sort of repertoire.
Yeah, well,
right
I suppose the Reinhardt,
the
Reinhardt himself will be okay, but you do actually have to change your team's positioning as well, because you do lose that shield. And that does actually change quite a lot, but now that DeToNator wheeling around the side here, they just want to kind of get on top of this point and force Hong Kong Attitude to take the fight to them. I kind of agree with this triple tank.
Hong Kong Attitude did actually make a bit of a rotation there, not wanting to take a direct fight with DeToNator. You see they're trying to wait for the EMP here as well. If Hong Kong Attitude get engaged on, they have the Transcendence, but really for Hong Kong Attitude, they don't really want to commit too early. Whoa, okay. They can also do that.
Yeah, wow, ouch. I didn't see who that stuck onto, actually. I didn't think it stuck onto anyone, but whoever it was brought it back home to the rest of their team like a disease from a foreign land.
Could have been Anakin possibly and then rolled back into his own team. But
it must have been that, actually.
I was going to say, you know, for Hong Kong Attitude, the game plan would have been to sort of stall out for as long as they can, wait for the next EMP, then engage into a fight. A Ting had to use Primal Raise just to keep himself alive because he was so pressured, but then Shylin got the stick of all sticks. And now the EMP comes into play.
Oh, yeah, and this is a really devastating one. Anakin is already down. They've thrown it onto Yoshiharu, but he can't get the shield back up. No one was able to get their ultimates off before that EMP ran out, except for Dotolov. And really no one could follow up on Dotolov's one because they didn't have any of their own tools at their disposal. They couldn't throw down an Earth Shatter and then, you know, damage everyone caught in it or anything like that. And once again, Hong Kong Attitude are in the driver's seat, and DeToNator, they can't even find a good time to get their ultimates off, and they're kind of throwing away ones as well.
Their timing is right now. No EMP. Graviton Surge is up. So is the whole Hog. The Blender strat It's kind of what I'm expecting.
This is their opportunity. That's already the first Graviton out, and Sayhadi not really in position to throw out that whole hog. Yeah, they're losing anyway. Mango was able to throw down that Transcendence, and the frags just came through for Hong Kong Attitude. I mean, DeToNator, they couldn't seem to get the ultimates off, and even then, they couldn't get kills, ultimates or no. Hong Kong Attitude just seems to be killing them more often.
All right, let's find out the answer to that question we had earlier, though.
I think you may be right. I think it might have been sticking Anakin because we were seeing Yoshiharu, and it didn't look like Yoshiharu got stuck.
It looked like Yoshiharu there from Soyun's perspective anyway. But I think DeToNator...
It's kind of right into all of them. It's hard to see exactly.
I think DeToNator made a big mistake in terms of adaptation there. They should have read as soon as they went into that first fight, okay, they are running a Sombra, we got to ditch the Xayah, at least for a Diva, right? And even if not for a Diva, get your second DPS out, whatever it is, because Triple Tank, I believe, is severely weak to Sombra EMP, because Triple Tank heavily relies on two things, shielding and also healing. You eliminate a lot of healing when stuff like EMP comes out. Well, you don't really eliminate the healing from I guess the Ana gun and also the Lucio aura sort of stays, but you don't get the amp up, you don't get the bio grenade, you don't get the additional healing, which is really where the Triple Tank sort of excels on.
And you also, with Zarya specifically, you don't get any of the protective tools that are the reason for running her over Diva. We kind of talked about it earlier in the week, actually. Yeah, we talked about it earlier in the week with AHQ. Once that EMP is out on Triple Tank, they're just big health bars. And they're not big health bars that are dishing out a ton of damage either. And when you're just a big, easy to hit health bar, what you really are is a ton of ultimate charge for the enemy team. And that's what happened there. They kind of kick-started the ult economy with that one EMP.
Yeah, I mean, there was the opening fight which went pretty well for DeToNator, but...
Where there was no EMP.
But that's the thing, against a Sombra composition, your best fight is always the first one, where Sombra is a bit of a write-off there. No EMP, can't get an easy hack, you don't have good damage output, and no control over health packs, right? You got to set up first, and the first fight is always the weakest for a Sombra team. And of course they take that one, and they should have taken that one, DeToNator coming out on top, but they couldn't keep the lead. They needed to continue winning and separate themselves and sort of mitigate the effects of EMP. Didn't happen for them. Every time an EMP came out, absolutely devastating.
But that was only one map, right? Because we also had the other two maps where things just didn't go well for DeToNator at all either. And I think the theme of each three maps is actually DeToNator realizing what to do to win, but way too late, just far too late. And even in the case of the third map, I don't think they even realized what they needed to do to win, and a triple kill on a pulse bomb doesn't help either.
No.
But you look at map one, Farah not working at all. They're just getting dived on the ground, losing the ground forces, and then at 90% or later, they say, oh, okay, maybe we'll swap onto Soldier then. And they did win a fight, but they still had a Mercy. A lot of it came off a 4-man res, and it did actually get a lot of ultimates out of Hong Kong Attitude. Okay, look, that's okay, but.
I don't believe DeToNator knew how to win at any stage there, not for a single map, because even changing the fire off, it's more like, it's not, oh, this is how we win. More so it was, this is how we stop losing.
Yeah, this isn't working, let's do something else. Not, oh, we need to do this to beat their comp.
It's more like this is our path to victory, right? But they didn't know the next step, right?
They took the scenic route.
Exactly, right? And then on second map, right, where K4 pretty much lived on that high ground, right? And then eventually they said, okay, let's go and deal with them in our final fight of this stage. And we all know how that elevator path went. It did not go too well for them.
And that was after actually DeToNator had got up to 50% because they had controlled the high ground well, and Hong Kong Attitude hadn't respected that. So Hong Kong Attitude learned straight away, figured out how to beat that, and then held it themselves. And then it was like DeToNator didn't even know how to beat their own strategy.
Well, DeToNator, they lost when they came in with 4 ultimates versus 2, and then failed to capitalize off that because everyone essentially failed to get value out of their ultimate, and
they played the low ground. They played the low ground while K4 was just set up with pretty much
K4 ran away. K4 used Hack Visor, ran away. Sayhate also used Hack Visor, got nothing, and then died for it. K4 then came back in, and that was what made the difference.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's not really negating it. I mean, you look at that and normally you'd go, oh, cool, like Tac Visor was useless. That's great. But when you compare it to, like you said, Sayhate completely dying, that's still one useful soldier, even though he's not going to have a Tac Visor when he comes back in. It's still DPS. That's why he's a DPS.
Yeah, so I don't think DeToNator really had a strong understanding or a strong plan for winning either of the 3 maps there. It looked like they sort of fell apart at different stages. City Center was their best showing, and that was because they had a fantastic early start, which was also Hong Kong Attitude's mistake, but DeToNator really ran with it, and they got a massive lead, which kind of, true to DeToNator's path and story throughout the tournament, is get a great lead, fail to capitalize it, and take a game off the other team.
And they had every opportunity to actually get back into it, right? Normally, if you've got a great lead and then you do lose it, often you have a whole heap of time to get back in, but they squandered all that time. And like I said, this is presumably the map they prepped for. So now Hong Kong Attitude's pick is going to be King's Row. Bit of a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure we saw King's Row come out against Blank last night for Hong Kong Attitude.
You're right.
And even though Blank did win that, it got a little bit dicey. Got a little bit dicey for them because Hong Kong Attitude should not have been able to defend that much. And also, did they get first held? I don't think they did.
No, we went to time bank.
Yeah. So
the whole thing
that's
went
right.
to time
They
bank,
got first held during time bank, I think. So, or something.
They did not get first held. We went all the way to the second cap on time bank.
That's it.
Yes, you're right.
Just before the
this
second
was just last night, and we
Come on,
struggling to
guys.
remember
Come on,
it,
guys.
Well, it was so long, I was just remembering the time bank round.
Cool, guys.
The first round.
OPC historian here. I got you covered. Don't worry about it.
Okay, all right. Well, anyway, going to time bank and then getting it to just before the second checkpoint, which, by the way, they only had 1 minute and 30 seconds to do. Blank let that slip pretty hard. So Hong Kong Attitude being able to do so against a team that, even though they're looking the weaker of the top three right now, it's still in the top three. That's an impressive map for them right now. And now they're going up against DeToNator on it, who are second last.
Yeah, and who they have just beaten on Oasis as well. I mean,
fairly cleanly overall.
Every sign points to this boding well for Hong Kong Attitude. I mean, the proof will, as always, be in the pudding. And look, stranger things have happened. But after what has been a bit of a wild weekend for these, on paper assertions we've made, I feel like this is one where I am a lot more confident in saying Hong Kong Attitude should win this and will win this.
I think we're a little bit back to normal today after watching that Oasis match, right?
Yeah.
It looked exactly like how it should in previous weeks. Hong Kong Attitude have severely outclassed the two Japanese teams and even to a point Fireball as well. So there really should have been no competition for DeToNator coming up against Hong Kong Attitude, and that's what we saw in Oasis.
And there we go, the nostrils of the spawn room right there.
The nostrils? Really? That's how you had to put it?
Kind of what it looks like.
I just call them doors. That's what they are. It's not like any other part of that looks like a face. You could call it the eyeballs. The eye holes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well. In any case, what
I like
is
that strap.
that? Oh, that's
You
an
attach the
Oasis
shield.
shield. That's an Oasis shield
you
on the
attach the
chalkboard. I thought it was like half of a Winston bubble somehow. I was really confused.
So that's actually
kind of fun.
That's actually effective because if you can get that out into the middle of the map and just spin it, it becomes a really big shield.
Is that a pro Reinhardt? Is that a pro Orisa? No, that's no Orisa. Hong Kong Attitude, just using their hands on discount, and then they're going to be coming out the gates on this one. This is a pretty expected team comp out of them. Funnily enough, this is the exact team comp that Blank struggled to play effectively a lot last night, even against Hong Kong Attitude, though they did pick up the win. DeToNator, I feel, are playing more to their own beat here.
Yeah, I think Hong Kong Attitude have a really good sort of grasp here, especially because Shylin, again, one of the higher rated tracers in the tournament, and also K4 is kind of the protege Zonda almost, so already they're getting decent pickoffs.
Well, you said it there, yeah. Getting decent pickoffs, as in they immediately got the two tanks straight away. And wow, I mean, that's the point cap. Just that's all it really takes. The DPS is exposed. They have to back off. It's not safe for them to continue fighting. And it's not like they even got return damage on Hong Kong Attitude, let alone return kills. So that is a very, very clean, easy looking cap.
And we are looking at a bit of a snowball coming from Hong Kong Attitude now, not in terms of the actual positioning of the team, but in terms of the ultimates coming online for Hong Kong Attitude. Both DPSs will have it very shortly. I don't know if Hong Kong Attitude are going to prioritize pushing. It does look like a bit of forward movement from for some of the Hong Kong Attitude members, but DeToNator should be holding up roughly around the bookstore and looking for a fight of their own.
Yeah, I mean, that's the opportunity for it, and they really should take an early fight as well. to probably try and draw out this Pulse Bomb and possibly K4's Dragon Blade when it comes available, which will be soon. But Samurai D already down. Actually, good trade back into Mango Drive, but they've lost Anakin. No Dragon Blade even being committed here. Hong Kong Attitude, I like that they don't need it. I like that they're holding on to it though, because that means now they've kind of dealt with this early fight for DeToNator, and Hong Kong Attitude can go forward with that Dragon Blade, make space for themselves, and already set themselves up to cap the second point.
Shylin does such a great job of just securing kills inside that sort of chaotic moment. As soon as the tanks are down, Shylin gets set free and he's straight onto the supports. He's straight into the backline DPSs, eliminating everyone. He just used the Pulse Bomb, already on 57% charge. And for DeToNator, they are still waiting to regroup. They've just got their members back. Cart's nearly capped now. DeToNator have potentially one chance to try and sort this one out.
And all they've really got is the Nano Visor to do it with, and immediately they hear it come out. It goes on to Samurai D, actually, who's finding nothing.
Dead.
But yeah, he's finding nothing because there's a Transcendence there, and because they were expecting it to go onto Saihate, they dove him anyway, and then he didn't actually have it for the extra damage output and got taken down right at the top of this one. This is a clean sweep by Hong Kong Attitude. In just a few moments here, Yoshiharu out of the picture. Saihate needs to be smart and not try and come in for the recontest. They need to just let this cap go over. It's already lost.
Incredibly good target selection from Hong Kong Attitude, actually. It's just noticing, look, you're probably expecting the tactical visor to come out of Saihate. You just want to kill the soldier anyway, so it's kind of a 2-for-1 there. You block out the ultimate, you kill one of the main DPSs for DeToNator. The rest of their members were just there to stall out. As soon as their win condition was gone, which was the tag visor, the rest of the other 5 members were never going to be able to win that fight.
I know this is against DeToNator, but Hong Kong Attitude are looking really good here. And now Anakin going in actually is on top of the sound barrier, so it's not ideal, but yeah, good pathing there actually. And hasn't found much for it, but he's kind of forced Hong Kong Attitude's hand. Look at how they're positioned now.
Good pathing, 0 damage, 0 kills, which is a little bit unfortunate. So Saihate, at least, he's got pretty good position.
Yeah, that's the payoff. That's what I say by forcing the positioning. So now they had opened up Saihate. They need to get a few more for it, and they actually are starting to close it out, getting Jinkao as well. This is the tag visor commit for the cleanup. It wasn't actually necessary in the end, as Anakin kind of did the cleanup himself, but all's well that ends well, and DeToNator do actually find a spot to hold.
Shaylin hiding there in the back as well. He doesn't have anything like a pulse bomb, but he's just looking for an opening. Just gonna wait for Hong Kong Attitude to sort of get in there first. You got a couple of hiding members from each team actually.
Oh, we're gonna spring the trap anyway. Yeah, I like Shyllin's patience shot this. Here he goes.
Hong Kong Attitude is sitting on a decent number of ults here, so they've got to finally commit in.
Yeah, Dodlov already taken down as Mango is able to throw out the Transcendence to keep his team shored up through that boost on top of Samurai D. They're getting a few trade kills now. Anakin really trying to put the team on his back, and they're getting time because of Samurai D's ultimate, but that's about to run out, and Hong Kong Attitude actually have the positioning here as the payload is continuing to push. They haven't got a clean wipe, but they're going to get this payload to the point where all they need to do is win one fight.
Hong Kong Attitude can't actually play aggressive because they lost both supports. They have to wait for at least one of the supports to come back, get the healing. Here comes CQB. Now the healing comes into play.
Oh, Attitude. Ooh, that's a little unfortunate right as the healers came back. Yeah. Anakin has thrown out the Dragon Blade here though, so that's one of the big tools they would have had to win a last fight, because this card is still in a position where Hong Kong Attitude only need to win one fight.
Exactly. Hong Kong Attitude are going to have to go for a bit of a regroup here. Still got the Pulse Bomb that Shyllin's going to wait to use. K4 switching onto Soldier as well. Will be Soldier versus Soldier. No more Genjis for this team. I don't know if Hong Kong Attitude are really set up economy-wise, resource-wise. They're looking a little bit slim. DeToNator looking a fair bit more slim. So for both teams, it'll be getting to the picks. It'll be the opening picks which really determine this. Good stick.
Oh, that is a great stick. Oh, he rode it back into delay, even as Yoshiharu survived it. Gets forced out of the mech as a follow-up after that. He's actually managed to get back in it now. Jinkao trying to harass on the side. He's actually a little bit low. They're really trying to get this payload moving and keep it going, as DeToNator are getting a good number of picks through here, taking out a Ting and getting the healers as well. So that should be Hong Kong Attitude flagging the retreat again, and used up a lot of ultimates for it too. They haven't really got much to go on now.
Both teams use equal ultimates there, so you had a Pulse Bomb and also Tag Visor, and then on top of that you had both self-destructs, so 4 ultimates in total, 2 from each team. But Hong Kong Attitude, they losing that engagement, using equal ultimates but not getting the car push, not getting objective control. That's a loss in terms of where Hong Kong Attitude are currently, and they're losing time on top of all of that.
Yeah, they're relying on getting a good tactical visor here, but by the time that's up, Anakin will also have his Dragon Blade, and I feel like DeToNator just have more general tools. They have more to stall out the fight, they have more to play with aggressively, but never mind that. bad. Hong Kong Attitude, great opening as they take Samurai D and force Soihade way back. Anakin goes in with the Nanoblade combo, but he's forced out and K4 picks him off with the last end of the tactical visor. DeToNator looking to get completely wiped here in great positioning on the back line by Shaolin to clean people up. Now they're going to go position aggressively, stop anyone coming out of the spawns. Nice movement actually to the high ground by K4. They should be able to close out this cart distance. It's time being bought here by Samurai D with the ultimate running, but again, Shaolin just has everyone on lockdown. Now onto the Diva who's struggling to push the cart. They're not quite getting it through this last little bit, but it feels like it's only a matter of time here.
Knocking Soihade out is going to be really important.
Oh, now he's got DotLove in a corner.
Exactly, and even does put him down for some time, and this is going to give Hong Kong Attitude the opportunity to finish off this cap. They still have to get past all the tanks. Once they get past that, this is now going to be a stall out from DeToNator, just trying to buy as much time on the ticker as possible.
Yeah, it's all about running down the clock, and if they get it below a minute, which they are actually about to do here, that is quite good for them. The self-destruct by Jin Kao closes out the last couple of kills that I expect will result in the cap. There it goes, and at 56 seconds, DeToNator are going to be fairly happy with that now, right? Because if they get basically anything over a minute or even anything under a minute, they get a reasonable amount of time bumped up.
At the end there as well, when you sort of notice the Dragon Blade coming out from Anakin, I sort of looked at the ultimates, and Hong Kong Attitude was sitting pretty with both support ultimates ready to go. So I always knew that Dragon Blade was going to be nullified. You saw that from Anakin. He went and 2 ultimates committed, immediately had to back up and said, you're going into Transcendence plus Sound Barrier. Both support ultimates overlap, which is, I don't know if that was necessary, but it ended up being super successful to ward Anakin off. A better way to play that for Hong Kong Attitude would have probably been to commit one of the support ultimates and then use the other support ultimates afterwards instead of stacking them together. But it was 2 ultimates for 2 ultimates, and the main win condition for DeToNator, which was to get a team wipe using Dragon Blade, got completely shut down.
I think as well on the defense, DeToNator were also quite aggressive in the few fights that they did actually win. They used a lot of ultimates where they had already essentially won. 2 people down on the enemy team, you don't need to throw out more ultimates just to win the fight more cleanly, just to route them back to their spawn point. That's an advantage that is good, but not good enough to warrant the use of extra ultimates.
Yeah, certainly not necessary. And we saw a couple of times anyway, Hong Kong Attitude were kind of going in, getting these even ultimate trades, but still not actually really picking up the fights. And I mean, it was hit or miss. Sometimes they were and sometimes they weren't. But certainly when they were coming off even, they weren't losing super hard. They weren't getting put behind in the ultimate economy or anything like that. Because generally speaking, like you said, Smite, DeToNator was sometimes committing more ultimates than was really necessary.
Yeah, specifically from Soihade, I think you really noticed attack visors going wide more than once. A definite number of times Soihade was getting pretty much nothing out of attack visors, and even using them in times when the fight was more or less secured by Anakin anyway. So now onto the attack for DeToNator. It's going to be Anakin on the Sombra, and I voiced this already, but they're going to go for the setup play here. There's not going to be a single very quick cap out. They're going to wait for EMP, which is surprisingly or unsurprisingly going to be pretty effective because Jin Kao is running the Xayah.
Yeah, it kind of counters out this team comp, whether this was intended or not. Maybe well prepped, hard to say, but in any case, it takes a while to set up. And also, if you do get the cap through, which hopefully they will, it doesn't carry a lot of snowball potential.
It does and it doesn't, because the EMP does charge up pretty quick.
Yeah,
but
it carries snowball potential if you've got another EMP.
Hong Kong Attitude, I think, underprepared this because they should know DeToNator were going to bring out the Sombra, or very likely to.
Wow, that was a very quick one, and it did seem to catch Hong Kong Attitude by surprise. They have got Jin Kao and a team, that's the key ones there, and this should be DeToNator starting to push it through. And yeah, getting the 2 of those 3 tanks is very nice of them, getting the damage now into Shaolin, forcing him out of the mech. He is now out of the picture. Good dive in by Samurai D to kind of secure this high ground now, and they are going to get the cap through. Very well executed by DeToNator.
Yeah, like you said, you were saying maybe there isn't the snowball potential to come out. The good news for DeToNator is because they're going up against triple tank, when you're EMP, we looked at Oasis and we said this is a lot of free charge. There's a lot of free ultimate charge. That's how DeToNator maybe can get their snowball rolling. But like I said earlier, as well, Hong Kong Attitude have misread this completely. They're running triple tank into a Sombra. They should have been prepared that DeToNator were going to bring this up. DeToNator do it every single time.
This is a bad place for Hong Kong Attitude to fight, actually. Normally you want to take an early fight to stop the snowball, but this is going to give DeToNator a snowball because they're closer to their hacked health packs. They're giving Anakin an opportunity to get a quicker EMP than if he had to go all the way through the streets and do it with damage. So this is giving Hong Kong Attitude an opportunity. They do pick Delave, but Delave picks one back onto a Ting, and that's one tank out of the picture. No EMP yet even, but Dodlov, no defensive tools left. Samurai D looking to go down. Oh, he's staying alive just barely, finally gets picked off. And actually Hong Kong Attitude are kind of getting this mileage here just because that EMP hadn't quite come up in time, but that was a really risky place to actually defend at.
Yeah, the EMP was just a little bit too slow, and for Hong Kong Attitude, whether it was intentional or not, they made the right timing for their attack. They went aggressive while EMP was still down. This is the thing that's going to be a little bit dangerous now. Hong Kong Attitude, there's a possibility for them to have a disastrous fight if CQB ends up using the sound barrier early and then the EMP comes out later, which then nullifies the sound barrier shield completely, as well as everybody else's potential to get a return kill with their own ultimate. So DeToNator have a very interesting
set
time
up for it.
Here we go.
Right into the middle, there it is, but he's already getting trained down. The follow-up wasn't quite quick enough from Hong Kong Attitude, and yeah, the sound barrier came out after the fact. So Hardy not really finding much either, and DeToNator, unfortunately, just a bit of a misfire.
And DeToNator, for a team that executed their the first EMP extremely well, that one was super telegraphed. He didn't jump in, so he didn't go in with invisibility. He translocated in, but didn't even translocate to the right direction or the right position. He translocated just shy of where Hong Kong Attitude were actually standing. Then he had to run into Hong Kong Attitude, prematurely use the EMP and telegraph the entire play, which gave Hong Kong Attitude time to run away.
Yeah, he's changed off now because waiting for another Sombra push would take too long. But now they've kind of lost their opportunity to snowball. They actually should have won that last push, but now this fight already going awry. They have drawn out an ultimate from Jin Kao, which they can be happy with, trying to get some trades back, and they do kind of have the spawn advantage as they pick Shaolin out of the mech here. So if they can get some kills through here, they can actually get the payload underway, but they're not having an easy time of it. It's certainly not convincing. Sound Barrier is going to queue out the second half of this fight now, as DeToNator, with ownership of this high ground, are looking to actually clean it up now, and they do kind of retreat successfully enough, despite that graviton and losing some members, and have the payload underway once again.
DeToNator finally get some return kills. They get a little bit of a punish there at the end, but Hong Kong Attitude still very much set up in terms of ultimates. They are going to come back in in a really strong way. Expect a lot of resistance here. The good thing for Hong Kong Attitude that they've done extremely well is by so much time after losing that first cap quite early, the cart is going to make its way across, but look, it's going to be a big contest coming out from Hong Kong Attitude.
And Ting's actually going out with this boost on him, and all it's really meaning is DeToNator are kind of splitting up a little and drawing back. He's not exactly finding much with it, and that's a resource now not there for Hong Kong Attitude, one of very few. Samurai D, actually similar situation, but pushing back Hong Kong Attitude is a little bit better because that's space for the payload. So Hardy committing to this low ground now, trying to get the damage down, but he's just in the face of a shielded Zarya, and that's where the auto aim was going. They do finally close off some kills, and that is a big run of them with that whole hog committed as well. And like I like to say, all's well that ends well, and Hong Kong Attitude didn't have any resources to commit of their own. DeToNator will cap, and they do have the opportunity to set up a snowball again.
Well, the real disappointing thing is we saw a Ting, we didn't even see the primary race, we saw a Ting jump in, and using the nano, didn't get that much done, couldn't secure any kills. K4 went on a huge roundabout journey as well. The massive flank, don't know what he got done with that.
Nothing.
And at the end of the day, the only good thing that came out of that for Hong Kong Attitude was they forced a bunch of ults out of DeToNator, which means they're going to be able to take a pretty neutral fight coming into the third phase, but it's not comfortable for Hong Kong Attitude, who should have been able to hold streaks.
Yeah, I do like how they're doing the swap onto Sombra here again for the last phase, because again, there's a lot of health backs you can be taking here, and the more ground you gain, the better off you do with that. You'll get a few EMPs out as well, so you can take this kind of slow and steady approach. You know that you can probably take this to time bank, and you don't even have to get it too far over Hong Kong Attitude's time to be in a safe enough spot, given that you ran them under a minute. Anakin, if he stays alive here, they'll actually have an EMP very soon.
Gotta look for the grab here because Jin Kao is waiting for the opportunity.
That is a really bad thing for a Ting to have happen. Yeah, the grab and the nano boost onto him as well, but the sound barrier was great to keep DeToNator alive, and they completely deal with Shaolin. So now a Ting only just respawning, Yoshiharu picking up 2. The EMP hasn't even been committed, and now when Hong Kong Attitude do come out of the gate, they will be able to commit it on top of them as they respawn, kind of cut them off at the legs. They're not going to be able to dash for that payload. Drilling down a Ting now on said payload as Sai Hardy opens up the tactical visor to stop anyone from coming in. There is the EMP, like we said. Shaolin sat on the point, could not commit a self-destruct. In fact, I don't even know if he had one, and now the Mei swap to stall, and they get a bigger time back than Hong Kong Attitude.
Well done by DeToNator, but right at the end there, Hong Kong Attitude, I don't know what happened for them. I mean, I do know what happened for them, but it was just unexpected. They got the grab, they hit the bio grenade, everything was going well, but they couldn't secure the kills right at the end there. And with everyone going down, huge bank of ultimates for DeToNator as well, running towards end. EMP just sort of collecting the final few members, including Jin Kao, onto the Diva, I believe, preventing the Matrix from coming up, preventing a good stall, and then DeToNator just sort of roll on through.
I'll tell you what it is, what it was in that fight. Ating was dead. Ating was dead and they were positioning as though he was alive. So actually they didn't really have any frontline protection. So even though they got all those things down, their DPS was standing exposed. And even with that Graviton, it doesn't matter, right? When you're in a front-on fight and it's 6 versus 5, the Graviton almost doesn't matter because they're in front of you no matter how you slice it. You're exposed, they're not, even with that bio grenade on. And I mean, that's how it all went down, right? I want to say there was only one time actually DeToNator misfired on that Sombra comp, and that was in trying to break the archway hold that Hong Kong Attitude had. They then changed off Sombra and then changed back on it when it was safe and continued to execute it well.
To be honest, Hong Kong Attitude held that really well under the archway. They could have held for a little bit longer. There was a time when Hong Kong Attitude got too greedy. They chased all the way towards the spawn. They got punished finally by DeToNator, and DeToNator managed to get a push through all the way onto the final bend of the street's face. And when Hong Kong Attitude came in with more ults, they failed to be able to come out on top of that. So ever since then, even when we look at the third checkpoint, mistakes were made. A Ting died early. You're right, that really cost them.
Well, once again now, actually, this isn't quite a triple tank. I lie, it's not a triple tank. It's just shield comp to come out of DeToNator. They already lose Anakin, though. Mango Dragon to headshot on that, and Saihari is getting pushed way, way back. Oh, good sleep action. They will get this mech out, so they are kind of in a position to start getting the trade back. Jin Kao, they're just going to kind of leave him alive in behind them. They need to be sure he doesn't get his mech, though. They are getting beaten back now as they lose Samurai D. Yoshiharu, yeah, struggling on his own there, and Hong Kong Attitude get another convincing first push through.
This is the thing I like about Hong Kong Attitude is they don't need any Sombra setups. They don't need, I hate to use the word gimmick, but they can just push on through, leverage their members, play standard, and just get a much quicker cap than having to wait for something like an EMP. It's just not even required for them. And in a time where it is time bank, we are in overtime, Hong Kong Attitude need all the momentum they can get, and so far it's looking great in terms of that momentum.
It actually is, especially if K4 can get himself a Dragon Blade here. DeToNator don't have much to go on, but they should commit to a fight here anyway, because if they do win it, they stop this one right here, right now. If not, they buy themselves an opportunity to get a fight later on. All they need to do is win one.
To be honest, if they don't, it actually becomes pretty disastrous in the fact that they ended up beating a lot of ultimates for Hong Kong Attitude.
Hold on a tick though, they did trade back onto a Ting, and K4 goes down having found nothing. Anakin trying to put the team on his back here. They do lose Yoshiharu, but like I said, they only need to get half of a wipe if anything, because they only need to get Hong Kong Attitude off the payload, but they've lost the members now, and Dodlov is kind of caught out alone. They're trying to deal with this Tracer who is buying so much time for the team. A sound barrier to absorb the pulse bomb. DeToNator fighting valiantly, and like I said, Anakin really trying to keep it going. They actually committed a nano boost to him as well, but he can only do so much against these tanks. Ting has been able to come back into this fight now, has an ultimate as well to buy a ton of time, and Hong Kong Attitude, they actually regroup and get back on the payload in full force.
And stronger than ever. They got additional ultimates now. Like I said, it would have been a disaster if DeToNator ended up feeding a lot of their members, because Hong Kong Attitude are playing only off momentum here. They don't have a chance to reset. Everything has to happen in this push, and it can only happen in this push if they continue the momentum. Now it's going to be Transcendence.
Graviton straight into that Transcendence. Yeah, it keeps everyone but CQB alive, which is fine for Hong Kong Attitude. They've got ultimates to go off here. Decent Earth Shatter, but they need to get the follow-up. There it is. Actually, they do secure 3 off the back of it. Ting ults out. Jin Kao is back into the mech, but he's already in a world of trouble. K4 in full retreat, and he's only a Genji. Even if he stayed alive, he would be able to contest the payload. Good positioning by Saihari as well to keep this entire alleyway on lockdown from the front and the back. Decent distance, but beatable.
Beatable, especially with more time, is what we have to consider. Now, the only thing I'm concerned about is, does DeToNator play the Sombra comp again? Because if they do, they're relying on setups, they're not relying on a one push through momentum, which they might have to look at, because they don't have a heap of time either. They got a little bit more time, more than Hong Kong Attitude, but it's not astounding. It's not groundbreaking amounts of time, and they still have to get a decent amount of push on through. So if DeToNator sort of pigeonholed into running the Sombra again, I gotta be concerned there could be a problem.
And even if they do get that first cap, actually the thing they need to rely on after that is momentum. And on both the time bank and the main phase as well, Hong Kong Attitude had better momentum through the streets phase, whereas DeToNator, despite getting a better cap time in the end, struggled a lot to break the archway. They had a rougher start to that streets phase by comparison. They seem to not be able to gather that same kind of momentum. If they can do it here, then they can actually push this one through and win it, but they're going to have to be good at something they were bad at a moment ago.
And all it takes is for Hong Kong Attitude to read the situation correctly, which they have. They're not going to run the Zaire again. They're not even going to run the Reinhardt again. They are expecting the Sombra, and they say if you want to run Sombra, this is going to be much harder for you to deal with. You're not going to catch both our DPSs because, you know, we're going to hide our soldier on the high ground. We're going to hide our Tracer on the flank somewhere. At best, you'll catch our Winston, maybe our Diva, and that's not going to be good enough.
I think this is very presumptuous by DeToNator actually to run the Sombra comp. I feel like they would have been better served honestly just running 2-2-2 or maybe going for triple DPS if they wanted to run Anakin on something more DPS oriented. I call this 2.5.
And the problem is, like I said, like Hong Kong Attitude, the last Sombra play only worked well because Hong Kong Attitude played a composition which, not their fault, but, well, kind of is because, you know, maybe under preparation, but they played into the EMP. This time around, they're fully prepared, and that's a big difference.
Exactly, and like I said, presumptuous by DeToNator, and even then they're struggling. They're not actually, because they're so obsessed with making the Sombra thing work, they're not even doing anything like dive K4. They're going, no, let's just take damage so that we can charge EMP. Yeah, now EMP is up, so this should be their moment to go. If they can't make it work here, then I don't think this is actually going to work at all, to be honest.
Well, they're not going to have much time to figure it out because you're only going to have about 30 seconds left to go.
Was that good by a Ting or bad? I can't tell because he didn't actually catch Anakin and now may go down for it. He did get delayed on the back end of that, but that's the EMP. Like I said, if they can't do it now, they can't do it at all, and they've already lost Anakin. There's very little DPS, and Sayhadi is too low to keep in this fight now as DeToNator get beaten back. They have to die fast because they've only got 10 seconds.
Yeah, which means they're going to have to go desperate here. They're going to have to just jump on the point. We already have plays setting up. K4 on the flank as well with the attack visor, which means he's going to get easy kills.
Dodlov stalling this one out with the sound barrier, and I don't know if I quite like that. They're trying to buy time for the rest of the team to get back in, but it's not like they can even get a setup here. And now that they've flooded all in, K4 opens up with the tactical visor. Oh, that's a good reaction by Yoshiharu, but they're not actually getting kills. It doesn't even matter. And now Yoshiharu is just taking damage. He's not blocking anything. K4 holding his ground because the rest of his team was cleaning up the point. He didn't need to move. He didn't need to go anywhere. And Hong Kong Attitude first hold and get the win.
Easy money for Hong Kong Attitude. They read the situation well. They said, look, you want to run the Sombra? We're ready. This is what's going to beat your Sombra composition. Fool me once, cool. Fool me. You're not going to fool me twice. There's just not going to be a second time whatsoever because Hong Kong Attitude, they understood why they lost the first cap and they're not going to let a repeat happen. And you're right, presumptuous by DeToNator. Why do that again?
Yeah.
They're pigeonholed. This was my concern.
It's like,
this is my concern. DeToNator, is this the only thing they can do on King's Road? Because if it is, this is the result of that.
Yeah, it was paper, scissors, rock, right? DeToNator went paper and HKA went rock. Yeah. And then they're like, all right, let's not do rock again because it looks like all they can do is paper. So they went scissors. And then DeToNator were like, oh, they'll do rock again. They'll just lose again. Like, come on.
I don't think you can just presume that. And the thing is, it's very telegraphed. Sombra is always very telegraphed. It's hard to bring that
where
as a
are they? Oh, right.
And it's like as soon as you see it, you know what the enemy's game plan is, which is why the times that it has worked, I'm kind of looking at the defending team like, you knew what was going to happen. You should be prepared for this.
And we have seen teams react to it well and do exactly that, Reed.
Yeah, that's, I think, the thing that sets Hong Kong Attitude just a little bit below the teams that are above them right now, and I'm going to include Marchi in that as well to some extent, is that those teams will recognize, like you said, a Sombra comp is coming, so let's spread out. And yeah, okay, look, on the first round of defense, they didn't have a fantastic team for spreading out. You want your Reinhardt on the ground, you want your Zarya down there with it, and even then, it's still not the greatest people to get hit by the EMP. You lose your shields, you lose your ability shields as well, right? So there's still some level of spreading out that you can do though. You can have people up in the window. You've got time, remember. These guys are jumping in, losing health, going back, getting the health pack to charge the EMP. You've got time to walk your legs up into the window up there as well, whether you're the Diva, whether you're the Soldier, the Tracer, it doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, if nothing else, it may be hard, but because Sombra is so telegraphed, you do have time to react to it as best as you can. That may still not be enough, and you're right, actually, Hong Kong Attitude didn't really prepare for it at all. They could have prepared for it a little bit more.
So yeah, that's the part. It's not so much how they actually played, but more so the fact that they played into it the first time around. Anyway, because if you've ever seen DeToNator play on Kings Row, you would know that. You would be able to know, look, they do this every single time. We shouldn't be playing A triple tank into it, and B, if we're going to do that, we're not going to add a Xayah into the mix. Now, when you've already done that, you've already selected a rock against paper. At that stage, all you can try and do is to try and stop that paper from surrounding you, but it's going to happen. You are most likely just going to lose the Sombra composition because what you picked is entirely weak to it. So
Most likely.
that was the weakness there. But what they did was they changed it up the second time around, which is good.
Yeah. I suppose the thing is, like, and this is kind of what we're saying is, even in spite of all of that, then they also played into it. Like, I feel like despite all of that, despite kind of making the mistake already in what they picked and maybe not researching what DeToNator do in Kings Row, you're right. After that, after all that was said and done, they still didn't do themselves any favors in how they actually executed the fight itself. So Hong Kong Attitude basically did absolutely everything bad and then learned straight away and did it all right in Time Bank. And I'll be honest, that's good enough.
Yeah, well, it gets you the win, so you know.
Gets them the win, but I mean, straight away, shouldn't really take 3 checkpoints for you to work out. They were still running into some of the same issues, even though they held them at that archway as soon as DeToNator took the first point. It just took DeToNator to come back for EMP once more. They came in, won another team fight, and then Streets Phase looked pretty much the same again. I mean, they got it through. It was probably the point that they struggled on about the same as the third checkpoint.
Do you remember the second EMP? Because it was a total fail.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking of the third one.
On the archway, was absolutely miserable. And actually, even then when DeToNator went on to the Sombra at the end, I did like it, and on the whole the team played well, but they didn't actually execute a Sombra game plan. They just happened to win a good fight. And then they were like, oh cool, now we've got the EMP as a tool to stop them coming out of their base. Like, that certainly wasn't the plan, but given that they were in that situation, they're like, yeah sure, we'll take it. So I don't even know if I can quite fault Hong Kong Attitude for not playing around the Sombra there. I can fault them for losing that fight though.
Yeah, you're right, because the Sombra had relatively no impact. It was the Grav play with the Bio Grenade, but they lost a Ting early, like you said, not having the front lane tank there. And by the way, the Reinhardt does exceptional amount of damage against the Graviton Surge targets as well. So you get the massive cleave damage in there. It's really, really good, but that's something they severely lacked and severely missed out on.
And he actually died in that very first fight that DeToNator won on the first point as well, before the EMP had gone off. So actually, we touched on this yesterday. It seems to be this chronic weakness of a Ting, especially on Reinhardt, that he dies first.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like the Trill of Reinhardt's now in terms of like dying first. It's getting to be really tragic. I mean, a Ting is kind of, he's started out, we've said this so many times, he starts out really strong in the tournament. Now he's looking like one of the weaker tanks in the tournament, where once I would have placed him in, a top 4, top 5 sort of tank list, he's kind of not there anymore.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's kind of sad. It's really disappointing, and it will be something that holds back Hong Kong Attitude. Right now, they're getting away with it. Right now, they can still scrape out wins, but against the better teams, I don't know if that's going to be the case.
I mean, it's already held them back, right? They've already lost their 4th place spot to Machi, who, need I remind you, finished the first round robin at like 3rd to last or something. They did not have a good run, and then had a bit of a redemption story. But part of that redemption story was Hong Kong Attitude losing to them. This is already a team that's kind of being punished for their shortcomings, and I don't know that they've had much improvement. I mean, I would say even in this, even with losing, I feel from day one to now, DeToNator have had a decent amount of improvement. Hong Kong Attitude have had some, but it's not been anywhere near as much as these other teams.
Yeah, I think DeToNator definitely look like they've stepped it up since Oasis, at least. Their improvement over the series has actually been showing in Kings Row tonight. However, on the Time Bank round, where they just threw out the same strategy again, and against a smart team, you've got to expect they're going to have something to deal with it. So first round, pretty great for DeToNator. Second, not so much.
Yeah, it was a little bit one-dimensional, and we know that they can run other things too. So I'm not quite sure why they keep just going back to the Sombra.
I think again, it's pigeonholing for them. It's like, this is what we do. We're going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And they're either not experimenting outside the box here, or they're experimenting so far outside the box they're not even going back in the box.
So with regards now to Assault, we've seen them pick Volskaya because of how they can run that Sombra comp on it as well. But we also know that Hong Kong Attitude have kind of learned, well, look, this is a team that will run a Sombra comp if they can. So maybe they do still go to Volskaya. Do we feel that Hong Kong Attitude can actually read and react to this despite that?
Well, to be honest, the last time we saw DeToNator on Volskaya, it was against AHQ. They didn't run the Sombra. Not on the
Actually,
first
you're quite
cap.
right. You are quite right.
They did not run the Sombra on the first cap. They ran McCree, and then they ran Sombra later on the second cap.
You're right. Well, but in any case, there is still that opportunity for the Sombra comp. And then also, actually, Hong Kong Attitude would have been able to watch that match and go, okay, this is why this worked on the first push as well. So do we feel that Hong Kong Attitude can actually succeed where AHQ failed because they've had time to read and react?
Well, I mean, they messed up a little bit on King's Row simply because it felt like they almost forgot that Sombra's going to come out for DeToNator on attack for King's Row. So are they going to recognize how DeToNator are going to play on Volskaya? Because remember, they also do it a little bit differently as well on attack too. They come out, run Anakin on McCree as well, essentially brute forcing themselves through those tight spaces. A lot of teams will, if they are running a Sombra on defense for the first point, simply hold on that health pack, the big one, and just let it heal, charge up the EMP, and just shut the team down there through defense. Even though you're technically on the lower ground, you can still win the fight there. Flashbang can pick up a kill there because it's very, very easy to hit on the right target. In fact, you might even get more than one target hit with that flashbang when they're all packed up down there.
Yeah, well, in any case, we will answer a few more of these questions about Assault. We'll also actually know what map we're going to, what the pick DeToNator is right after this break because it is 2-minute noodle time, so don't go anywhere. Well, I kind of lied to you. You only had 1:55, so if you actually managed to make 2-minute noodles in that time, that's pretty impressive. You should feel proud of yourself. In any case, we are now, of course, back. Going to be heading into Assault now as DeToNator.GOLD find themselves down 2 games against Hong Kong Attitude on what is their home day. So it's going to be their pick for Assault. Talked a little bit about what we might expect. We're kind of expecting Volskaya, but for those who haven't actually seen either of these 2 teams on Volskaya, let's break down a bit of why that is.
Well, I mean, the biggest reason would be DeToNator's performance against AHQ yesterday.
There we go.
There we go, right? I mean, they actually beat AHQ, which is something that none of us believed would have ever happened. We've already talked about this quite a lot, and it's also just a morale factor, right? It worked for you yesterday. Why would you not pick it up today? Well,
because you want to pick Hanamura instead. That would be the answer.
We're going to have to find the reasons for that.
We're going to Hanamura, so maybe the reason is just it's in Japan, you know, a bit of taste of home, feeling homesick, I don't know.
I think preparation-wise, I want to believe it's because going into Volskaya, they'll feel like they have to play the Sombra because that's what they prepared the most, and playing anything else would be underprepared for DeToNator, and that would be a good reason for them not to want to play Volskaya here, because another thing is Hong Kong Attitude have already watched that game against that they played against AHQ. Like, they've sort of given away a couple of secrets here. They've given away their playstyle on Volskaya. It's information that Hong Kong Attitude have against them to use. So maybe going on to Hanamura is something where they can come out a bit fresher against Hong Kong Attitude, specifically also because Hong Kong Attitude does play Hanamura a decent amount and they have a good read of Hong Kong Attitude on this map.
Yeah, could be like basically purely in the prep, right? They're going, well, we can read Hong Kong Attitude on Hanamura, we can learn it. They've probably been learning us on Volskaya after the AHQ match. Let's just circumvent that altogether. Like that is actually quite a compelling reason. So is there any relevant data we can kind of pull up on DeToNator's performances on Hanamura?
Yeah, they played blank on this on day 1 and it didn't look too pretty. But that was on day 1.
That was a long time ago.
We're a little bit past that now, but there's been a couple other times they've played Hanamura. Can't remember the exact results. They haven't been winning overall, but I think...
I'm not sure
Inconclusive.
I'm not sure they've ever capped the second point is probably the biggest thing to bring up.
I think you're right.
To be fair,
certainly I don't remember it, and I'm not saying I have an impeccable memory, right? But you'd think if there was any particular evidence of them having good results or even 50-50 results on Hanamura, we'd have some inkling of remembering that, right? But we're kind of not. I don't really know what there is to go off with this team on Hanamura, but clearly there is a reason for the pick.
Well, I mean, they've got to have some kind of plan coming into it. Maybe it's some sort of unique Sombra play for sure. I mean, it's like DeToNator will pull out Sombra in almost any case they can, and, well, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Hanamura is one of the maps where you can't pull out Sombra, to be honest.
You'd be best not to.
Yeah, maybe avoid it.
Like they've already chosen not to do it on Volskaya Cap 1, which other teams do choose to do on, so actually, I don't believe that DeToNator are the kind of team that just want to do it. It's something that, again, it comes down to preparation. It's something that they prepared and they don't pull out on a whim. This isn't XQQ just doing it because he feels like it. This is something where DeToNator have planned it out properly, and they'll do it because it's something they've practiced versus anything else.
Yeah, XQQ would do Widowmaker though.
He'll just do anything. He'll spin a wheel. He'll spin a wheel, and whatever it lands on, it will be what he plays.
Yeah. Oh, looks like we're doing attack Genji, attack Hanzo. No, wait. Let me swap up to Farah now. Yes. He spins the wheel multiple times a match. In any case, that's a different man, different team, different game. This game is going to be DeToNator.GOLD 2-0 down against Hong Kong Attitude, desperate for a win. They did pick up Assault just yesterday against AHQ. That is really the one thing still in their favor, in their back pocket, if you will, and kind of a lot of what they're banking on. So, given their performance today, though, against Hong Kong Attitude, I actually don't know if I can feel they're particularly favored. I mean, the AHQ series had some closer moments before the Assault that then went the way of DeToNator. This has been more compelling in Hong Kong Attitude.
It has, and I feel like AHQ in general that day were not at their best.
They had a strange day.
Something was very much missing for them. So
they had a blank Hong Kong Attitude day.
Something like that.
Yeah. Well, in any case,
DeToNator having a DeToNator day.
It is DeToNator day, yeah. Every day is DeToNator day. Anyway, they're going to be first on defense as well, so home turf, if you will.
Yeah, come and fight us on our home turf. It's going to be...
No one can do that.
Semi-dive, semi-counter dive here against dive. Goal of this game will be to give Saihate plenty of room while Amakin pressures backline. And you also have Samurai D pressuring the enemy front line with supports in the back. So, I mean, DeToNator, that's it. That's what they got to achieve.
I would not assault the Japanese in Japan. Even the Mongols tried that and they failed. The Mongols sacked Baghdad, but they couldn't invade Japan. They died in a typhoon. Twice,
Hong Kong Attitude going to be able to assault Japan. We're going to find out.
Try, yeah. Hong Kong assaulting Japan.
This is
something different. In any case,
interesting pathway for Shylin as well.
Shylin, very interesting path. You're right. It has actually been sniffed out now, but actually that's been the opening for Hong Kong Attitude to get on this point anyway. No frags coming through just yet, so DeToNator do have the opportunity to counterattack and haven't taken too much damage, but they're kind of struggling to find the position to do it. Hong Kong Attitude have kind of been able to steal an upper hand here, a positional advantage, already capping a third through. DeToNator are actually running out of time to commit to this, and they're spending a lot of time just trying to keep Samurai D alive. As Delave gets picked off, they're going to have an even harder time now topping off these tanks. Yoshiharu out of the mech. Great pulse bomb to secure him as well, and they start to clean up. They're looking to cap. Oh, rest in pepperonis, K4.
Well, that's one kill DeToNator get, but one kill is not going to be enough to get them back in here. Players sacrificing themselves to even just stall it out, which...
not even Saihate can do it.
I don't think they should have done that. I think at that sort of point, you understand you're just going to lose it. Don't even bother sacrificing the last two plays. That's just two more kills you're giving out to Hong Kong Attitude, who are already going to be snowballing into the second cap.
Yeah, Saihate decided to commit off the high ground onto the point to see if he could, last-ditch win the fight. But, I mean, he was in like a 2 versus 5 at that point. So
win the fight is like stall for 1 second, maybe.
Why not stay on the high ground and then, oh no, we're losing it, and then back off, right? I mean, he's got the attack visor now, and he wasn't going to get it during that fight. In any case, let's see if Hong Kong Attitude can kind of get the snowball going. Certainly should be able to play for thirds, and have already set themselves up nicely on the side here.
Yeah, they do lose the Ting super early, and unsurprisingly also, I mean, we talked about this already.
Oh, good pick onto Mango Jai, actually. Quick deflect to do part of the damage, and then killing him off. Hong Kong Attitude smartly take the dive. They know they can't survive any longer on that side ground. Just going to have to go down the middle, but they have given DeToNator some much-needed ultimates.
And DeToNator kind of equalized there. Equalized for the earlier couple of feeds from 2 members, so they managed to get their own ultimates up here. It's going to be a very competitive fight now for the second cap. But I think I got to give it to DeToNator if the fight does sort of roll out, because defensively, you got a bit of an advantage here, and for the attackers got to come in way more ahead for them to be effective. The best thing Hong Kong Attitude can get is to sneak out of 1/3 of the cap.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really what they had to play for. They had to play for thirds. They're committing 2 of their own ultimates already. DeToNator do commit 1 out of Samurai D, so already looking a little bit leaner, but no kills either way just yet. They're going to commit a Transcendence as well onto a sound barrier. Seriously trying hard to take out Samurai D. Now opening up even more on the defense is DeToNator. If Amakin can get a couple, then they do successfully stop up this defense, having held up, taken away a lot of ultimates from Hong Kong Attitude. Opening up with this tactical visor, I don't know if I quite like this. He's really not finding much with it. Finds Shylin. They'd already kind of won the fight at that point, and they didn't need to commit that.
Hong Kong Attitude will get it. They're going to be able to sneak away with a couple of kills, and they don't even get that third, so That was a best case scenario. This was probably the expected result, which was fight in, both teams use ultimates. Hong Kong had to get eventually repelled. Don't get enough of a cap to really get anything done. So now comes the long grind. Now comes where Hong Kong Attitude has to slam their faces against a brick wall for a while until they build up enough of an advantage to really start to get the cap through.
And they committed a lot of ultimates there as well. Committed the Sound Barrier really early, committed a Ting's ultimate really early. If I decided, yeah, let's commit the Transcendence too. Kind of everything in the kitchen sink, as we say. Saihari already getting an opening kill. Once again, a Ting dying first. Means Hong Kong Attitude probably can't commit much more to this fight, to be frank. And they should just back away. They can't really draw any ultimates out of DeToNator here because they don't have any to give. Only just got that the nano boost up rather.
Which is actually a good time for Hong Kong Attitude to try and get something going because it's a very neutral fight where the first team that does get the ultimates coming up may get themselves into a pretty favorable space.
Well, it's even, but they had lost a Ting. I mean, they were in they're in a 5v6, and this time it's going to be Jin Kao going down to the top of it. So Hong Kong Attitude, like even in that arguably even playing field in terms of ultimates, were unequal in terms of sheer numbers, and that's still a lost fight. I would have liked to have seen them back out earlier. In any case, they're just kind of losing time on the clock.
They're losing a lot of time, and it's kind of the price you pay, the sort of the choice you got to make. Do you back out and go for another push, or do you try and get more out of the current push you're currently in? And time is the ultimate price you pay at the end of the day.
Very aggressive defense out of DeToNator. They've already lost Delay and haven't actually got much of their own in response, only picking Mango. Now they lose Anakin, who got nothing with that Nano Blade. The rest of DeToNator are like, ooh dear, they're going to be knocking on our door any second now. But Hong Kong Attitude are actually taking their time to regroup, having lost Jin Kao off the back end of that.
By the way, they're running K4 onto the Soldier, which means their game plan is to set him up on the high ground there. They also have to challenge Saihate with that, and they have to protect K4 from a number of attackers, including Anakin, including Yoshiharu, including Samurai D. So there's a lot of counterplay that DeToNator have here, but as long as DeToNator can keep Saihate alive and can pressure K4 out at the same time, DeToNator should be able to hold on.
Should. We always say it should, don't
well, they're
we? How often does it come through in practice? Bit of a change up as well in lineup for Hong Kong Attitude, looking to go for something a little bit more pick oriented. And a Ting on the infamous Reinhardt. Good opening pick onto Anakin, could be a window with the K4 trying to take ownership of this high ground now. Tried to dive in there, Samurai D, and now actually K4 does have the high ground, can open up that tactical visor if they feel they have an opportunity, trying to get themselves onto the point now, but they haven't actually got many kills just yet. And there we go, a Ting going down first. It's almost it is extremely reliable now. Decent hook. They haven't really got big tradebacks just yet, as K4 kind of has to route around just to take out Anakin and protect his own healers. Finally gets another in the form of Dotlov, and they're trying to get onto this point now. Set to get a third, but I don't know if they'll get much more than that.
That's the 1/3 now. They have a couple of members still left. They got to play against the defenders. The best chance now is to get rid of the ultimates from DeToNator and then come back in the second third.
Double commit. Their own sound barrier for DeToNator sound barrier. Now there it is. DeToNator committing the rest of their ultimates. The self-destruct and the nano boost tactical visor combo does clean up Hong Kong Attitude. Like I said, not going to get any more than a third. They'll be happy to take it, I suppose, but kind of far from ideal, and they don't really have much to go on themselves now for this next push.
Well, the game plan was, at the end of getting that third, they weren't going to get anything else, so the only other thing they could achieve was bait out all the ultimates from DeToNator.
They baited out a lot, actually, yeah.
They pretty much got them all except Anakin's one, which he ended up saving. And now Hong Kong Attitude, with about roughly a minute left to go, they got to get themselves, I think they can get 1/3 within that minute, and their only last chance to get the last third will be in overtime.
Yeah, it's kind of taking advantage of DeToNator's lack of discipline there and holding the ultimates. In any case, good setup already for DeToNator. I've kind of read the setup by Hong Kong Attitude in a way, and if a Ting goes down here first, I'm going to be very disappointed. Anakin opening up with the Dragon Blade, getting CQB, that's pretty good stuff for him, does get traded back. K4 getting that one. That was really the only ultimate that they had, but Hong Kong Attitude aren't exactly in a position to really force this one anyway. They don't have much to contest this high ground. When they do get more in, Samurai D can drop on top of them.
They actually lose a lot of their ability to challenge Saihate.
Oh no, a Ting.
That's a real problem. And a Ting goes down.
Every time.
Well, he wasn't the first one this time.
As reliable as the tides.
As reliable as the sun going up. But the big problem is, I actually prefer to Ting onto the Winston because you need someone that can directly challenge Saihate on the high ground.
Exactly.
You've already dropped a Diva, now you dropped your Winston, you don't have a Genji either. What do you do to actually challenge Saihate now?
Is anyone even able to touch this point here? I can't see where Hong Kong Attitude actually are. They're going to have to barrel for this, which means now they're not going to get a chance to set up. This time it's CQB who goes down first. K4 is actually set down on this ground, though, with the tactical nano visor running out. Actually getting a lot for it. I feel like they just kind of brute forced it in. Probably still not going to be enough, yeah, unless Shaolin and Jin Kao get something crazy here. Ting desperately needing this Earth Shatter, but he's too low. Can't get it off. They got the second, third at least, and got it up to 97%, which means DeToNator will have to as good as Cap on their own offense. Honestly, Hong Kong Attitude got way more out of a bad situation, but they aren't actually going to get the full second Cap through.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. The early losses, the early deaths there, starting out with CQB on the Lucio, down to Anakin. He got traded off by K4, which is arguably a pretty good trade, but a 1-for-1 when you're the attacker against a defender spawn location like that is not good enough.
It's not an even trade.
You need a 2-for-1 trade.
Heck, you need a 3-for-1, really.
Well, I mean, just a 6-for-0 would be nice.
Yeah, 6-for-0. That's what you need. If you really want to win, you just got to kill everyone. And even then, you got to kill them twice because they will all respawn at once. That was interesting. I'm actually surprised Hong Kong Attitude did get it through because it's like the one where they sort of went, no, look, we can't take our time and settle. Let's just barrel through. Normally that's your worst attack because you don't set it up, but it ended up being their best one.
Well, this is the thing that happened is they got Anakin down first, so that's a kill. They lose their support. So in terms of damage output, they won the damage output trade for at least a respawn period. So they go in, and a Ting doesn't last for very too long. Now the difference here would have been if a Ting was on Winston, maybe he could have challenged Saihate because K4 got 2 kills there. He looked for number 3 on Saihate. He couldn't get Saihate, and then Saihate came back with attack visor of his own. If Saihate went down because he was pressured by a Ting or for some other reason, just wasn't able to run away and be safe where he was on the high ground, then it could have been a different story, perhaps with better output from K4.
In any case, it is now all on DeToNator, and because of how those closing seconds went, like I said, they basically have to cap. I mean, it got up to, what, 97%? If you get up to 98, yeah, you will have probably been able to full cap unless you are going to do exactly what Hong Kong Attitude just did, which was, dare I say it, lucky.
Try not to get yourselves killed.
Let's see if they can do it.
It's very fortunate. To get to 97
That's a good term,
is
fortunate.
basically a cap.
It's like lucky, but it's not as memey.
Yeah, kind of like that. It's like a nice way of saying. But that's kind of it. The big difference here is 97 means no time back. It just means somebody will get this.
Yeah, if DeToNator do get that cap through, then yeah, no time bank. And they do actually have a good amount of time to do it naturally. So let's see if they can pull this one off. I do like the comp coming out of them here.
Haven't seen the Anakin Hog in a while, so that's going to be very interesting. They're very much relying on Saihate's damage output.
Oh, doesn't get the maximization, doesn't reposition the turret. Oh no, a Ting! Goodness gracious! K4 already getting pressured out as well.
Turret died first.
Yeah, turret died first, and then technically a Ting doesn't die first. Oh, goodness. But you know, that's not a good feeling still. And look at Samurai D's positioning here. He's almost playing defensively on this point. It's actually on Hong Kong Attitude to attack onto, and he's getting so well topped off here. They haven't got more kills out just yet, but they're pressuring Hong Kong Attitude. They've got a third, and they're actually looking poised to get even more.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't think Hong Kong Attitude have a space to get in, especially Diva Meg going down as well. A Ting does get back into the fight, but a Ting needs to open up the play here.
Yeah, picking out Shaolin is nice as well.
Where is he?
And
What's
again,
he doing?
dies the moment he gets back to the fight as they commit a bunch of ultimates to K4 as well, who's getting a couple, but it's not going to be anywhere near enough because he's now dead. There aren't any further tanks. CQB could try and commit a molten core. He's actually going to go for it, but he doesn't. Oh no, he does have a turret down just barely, but it's a pretty avoidable one. And they should still be able to deal with CQB anyway. Any second now. Come on, there we go. Finally got it. And they actually got the point cap through as well. So Hong Kong Attitude, by throwing everything at that, actually just gave DeToNator a huge chance to snowball.
Yeah, the possibility is definitely there, but also for Hong Kong Attitude, they still have a grab to play with. The molten core being used is actually good because CQB was wanting to swap off anyway, so it's kind of like 50-50.
If that grab gets eaten,
Wow,
if that grab gets eaten, Hong Kong Attitude, like, I don't know, their coach is going to pull out the belt or something.
I don't know. That would not be the
It's the only resource they have, and they would feel so silly if they kind of gave away the snowball and didn't use their one resource they had. And I mean, DeToNator have a lot to work with this Earth Shatter alone. A Ting not quite close enough to his own. Jin Kao, good patience, hasn't thrown it out yet. They want to, they clearly want to. That's the timing, yeah. Surviving through it. Now DeToNator do get pretty well wiped out from that one. Didn't they actually committed an Earth Shatter on the end of that? It's a little unfortunate for DeToNator actually, because that was already a lost fight, but
Well, it's a victory. It's a big victory for Hong Kong Attitude. They dodged the Matrix, got the Graviton Surge down, successfully defended, and they got an ultimate out of DeToNator. So now they're poised to actually be able to hold this one out.
Yeah, they've built up enough ult charge off that. And sitting on their own Earth Shatter, plenty of things to make space as well. And if they can get this Dragon Blade up before long, then they will have that combo with the Nano Boost as well.
My ultimate is ready.
Yeah, K4 just wanting to throw some stars out the window, build up his own ultimates. We're going to be looking for the Earth Shatter play out of a Ting. And possibly the Nano Boost to follow as well.
No, it's not going to happen. He's going to die first.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be the commit, actually, the Nano Boost Dragon Blade there. And they do, yeah, that's really, really big for them. No ultimates committed out of DeToNator, which is good, given that they got fairly well wiped. But that is good ult economy out of Hong Kong Attitude. Actually committed the self-destruct there out of Shaolin as well. Don't know if that was completely necessary. Actually, no, he didn't. The mech did just get killed, so that is my bad read. He should still have that ultimate. But that's good economy.
Good economy in the sense they're only using one ultimate to get the win, but not the super most efficient economy in the sense that they didn't get realistically any kills outside the ult, which means no one else got to charge their ults to sort of continue the rotation, which is why you see Hong Kong Attitude are now behind in ultimates, also because DeToNator decided to save fully, which is a good call by them.
Certainly is. Now DeToNator going to come in for the next one. Still have plenty to go off here. Will get a tactical visor during this as well. That's the self-destruct out of Shaolin to try and make space. Anakin not really getting much with that hog running and goes down. They have not got any trade kills, even though Hong Kong Attitude are low. Now DeToNator trying to wheel around. They're going to be moving on to this low ground. They need to get kills. That's the only thing that matters. And Saihari actually retreats from it. They send Samurai D over the edge to kill Shaolin, and that actually just shoots themselves in the foot. That is not a worthwhile kill because now they don't have anything to use as a frontline for the attack.
It's like a bit of an Iron Giant moment where you just take the mech down.
You go. And it's not like it was... I don't even think Shaolin was self-destructing anyway.
No, he wasn't, but...
if it hadn't been the self-destruct, then that's an Iron Giant play. You're right.
That would have been beautiful.
In any case, K4 once again with this Dragon Blade up and Mango pretty close to the Nano Boost, so they should be able to use that combo once again, and last time it paid dividends. I expect much the same.
Well, DeToNator have... they're looking to make a withdrawal out of this back now. 5 ultimates. Anakin changes off the hog as well. I kind of like that. The mobility from the Genji will definitely help them out here. But they've saved up for so long, they've got to go.
All right, well, there it is. There's the Nano Blade combo onto it and actually gets taken down by Saihari, only finding Dodlov in that one who got the ultimate off beforehand. A Ting goes down, shocker, shocker. And now Shaolin getting pressured down onto the point. DeToNator should be able to play for a third. That is a nice Earth Shatter. Oh, gets put to sleep. They didn't quite get the follow-up on CQB. That is very unfortunate. It got sucked up into a crab. I've never seen a Reinhardt fly. And now they're actually losing their opportunity to take the third. Getting a couple of kills on the back end with Yoshiharu self-destruct might just buy it back for them. And actually, indeed, it is good Earth Shatter with the Nano Boost running. He's going to be able to pick Samurai D and stall out the third once again. This is just flip-flopping back and forth between the two teams, but this is the point now where it starts to become unsalvageable for DeToNator as the respawns come through for the defenders.
And there it is for DeToNator, 5 ultimates, but you know, they spent 5 ultimates fairly early, won the first team fight, expected result. However, how do you deal with the respawners when you're the attacking team? You can never be in a situation where you use all your ultimates on the very first fight. You have to have enough ultimates to also finish off the respawners, then get the stagger coming in. That's how you get the full cap out.
Well, an already delay is down. Anakin's going to commit a blade to this one when they've already got a numbers disadvantage, which will soon be rectified by the defenders' respawns anyway, and Anakin goes down. That was, I'm going to say it, a bad idea.
Still getting the cleanup here, so for
I think he didn't die, actually.
Hong Kong Attitude are just starting to get further and further ahead on this defense with more and more time running out. We don't even have a third being checked out for DeToNator yet with about a minute 40 left to go. This is roughly where Hong Kong Attitude got their first third. So DeToNator, you know, this is definitely looking like a really tough situation for them. And also, by the way, Anakin is back onto the hog.
Yeah, they've had a couple of times where, by rights, they should have been able to get a third, just in terms of where the ultimate economy was. The execution has just, unfortunately, fallen short. A Ting has stopped dying.
I mean, he got nanoed last time. It's good that he stopped dying, but look at his positioning. What is he defending here?
Yeah, as a self-destruct straight into the backline of DeToNator. Well reacted to. K4 trying to get into the backline of anyone if he can. A Ting died. A Ting died again. This actually should be the window for DeToNator, but Hong Kong Attitude, to their credit, have kind of wheeled around. They're swinging back. They're absolutely wiping the floor now with DeToNator, and a Ting's respawned anyway. It doesn't matter. DeToNator took too long to commit and got completely demolished.
Literally swinging back, and K4 has been such a huge factor. It doesn't even matter that it's Ignition. This is a nice ult charge from K4 as well. I don't know if he can secure the kill, but it won't matter because he's on to 41% already after just using Dragon Blade. So getting a decent amount of charge off of Anakin. This is definitely going to put Hongo at another space, which will be in DeToNator's last attack. But you got to think, if DeToNator used 5 ultimates last time and couldn't get a third out, I don't know if they can get 97% out of 4 ultimates.
Well, they kind of have to. They don't have any other choice. Well, let's see if they can, though. Oh, it's in.
Could be it. Could be it.
He die first. They're going to barrel for the point. No pretense, no setup. Not a lot of pressure off to the side. There's the nano boost out. They've actually got CQB. They're trying to get more. The sound barrier out as well. They're trying to get some. And they do. They get something more for it. The 2 tanks out for Hong Kong Attitude. They haven't quite got Shaolin just yet. But they're getting a third. They're starting to make it happen. But now they're out of ultimates. And the respawns will come through. That was a very interestingly timed sound barrier actually trying to stall up that second
Dragon
third.
Blade?
By time for the respawns. Yeah, Dragon Blade to come out from K4. Oh, what a hook! Yoshiharu is going to be the one to secure that kill. And Hong Kong Attitude actually getting wiped as they come out of the base again. My goodness gracious me, they're starting to do it. The Graviton to come out there could just turn it back around, but they don't die. They stay alive in it. And they're still on the point. Still getting picks as CQB goes down. Again, Shaolin throwing out the self-destruct. DeToNator need to be careful to not die anyone to that. They do all survive, but the Mei is starting to do a bit of work. Even as it gets picked off, they froze up Samurai D, who is now low enough to get taken out, and DeToNator losing their front line, struggling to get the close out on K4 now. Hong Kong Attitude, the defender's advantage may start to overwhelm them. This whole hog is the last chance they have as they get K4. What else can they get? Because they are really trying hard. And there goes this boost onto him as well. But the whole hog's already run out. Where are Hong Kong Attitude though? Desperately trying to respawn once again out of the mech. DeToNator, they've protracted it so long. They're actually starting to make it work. And Yoshiharu, that's going to be the next wipe. Shaolin back into the mech, but bumps straight out of it as he gets in. K4 trying to swap to the Tracer to buy time. A Ting as well with the stall, but it's all going to fall short. And my goodness gracious me, they did it.
Oh, gotta let out a bit of a breath there.
I don't believe it.
Right at the last moments, and it just started to be a bit of a disaster. I think where it really turned around for me was
applauding themselves.
K4 dying with the Dragon Blade straight away. That's where Hong Kong Attitude needed to secure some kills, because even a couple of kills while they were being traded would have given the advantage back over to Hong Kong Attitude. Like I said, for the attackers to actually get it, they have to significantly out-trade the defenders. So they did that. Yeah. That's exactly what DeToNator ended up doing.
They failed to do it at every other juncture where we felt they should have. But funny enough, that was similar to Hong Kong Attitude, right? On their attack on their second point. It wasn't until the very last one where they just abandoned all pretense of like setup and quote-unquote doing it right, and just kind of barreled in, and then it kind of worked. Maybe it was just this sheer element of surprise thing, but the fact that then worked in reverse for DeToNator, who got a cap off a very protracted fight as well. I mean, it
was worse.
That whole closeout was absurd.
It was actually
both
worse.
times.
It was actually worse because they started on 0%. At least Hong Kong Attitude started on a third.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference there as well. So DeToNator got so much more out of their final push, and I think you're onto something, because teams are a little bit more scared. They're a little bit more cautious when there's time left. They think, oh, we don't want to make the wrong move here. We're just going to take it one step at a time. Oh, whoops, we got caught out. When we get into the overtime, suddenly teams are like, we just got to go. We got to do it. They go in, and it works sometimes because they're not scared anymore. They're executing. When you watch the top teams, when you look at Flash Wolves, look at AHQ, and you even look at Blank, they just go.
Yeah.
It's not just going stupidly. They're calculating it, but then they're also going because they're confident.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, we're going to a map 4. I mean, this is Assault that DeToNator did also take off AHQ. Maybe this is just the one thing they can do consistently enough. So, man, I don't even know what to think now.
I mean, the thing is, they did it, but they did it just barely. Just barely, by literally 3%, right? Because Hong Kong Attitude had 97% through the cap. They almost capped it, but just not quite. And then DeToNator managed to cap it in overtime. So we could have been going to essentially a draw, or even time bank where things could have gone a little bit differently, but because of that 3%, that 3%, they take out the win straight away. So even though they took the map, which, by the way, fantastic result for them right now. And even though I said at the start of the night that DeToNator should be looking for a series win tonight, I'm back to the mindset of DeToNator should be looking for a map win tonight.
Yeah. They could still do it though, because if we do remember, right, at this point in their series against AHQ had picked Assault, and then of course it was DeToNator's pick. They went to Route 66, it went to Time Bank, and it actually came absurdly close. Like, that was within a hair's breadth of being a second map win for DeToNator. Maybe Escort is also a solid map for them. They're not going to have the pick, so I don't really think we'll go to Route 66 if Hong Kong Attitude have done their homework, but there is a precedent still that says this could be successful for DeToNator.
This is the most mileage DeToNator have had against Hong Kong Attitude, I believe, so a little bit of uncharted territory for both teams in the terms of going to a map 4 against each other. I have the sort of belief that Hong Kong Attitude will try and take it to Gibraltar, or at least Dorado. I'm not thinking Route 66 here. It hasn't been one of Hong Kong Attitude's maps. Certainly they watched the AHQ game against DeToNator on Dorado on Route as well, so maybe not feeling too good after seeing just how well DeToNator did on Route 66. So I'm going to eliminate Route as one of the possible picks for Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah, I'd be pretty stunned if they went on to that. I mean, if they did, it would mean that they just feel so incredibly favored that they feel that result that DeToNator had against AHQ doesn't matter, but I would still find it strange. That would be a very bold move.
I think Dorado is probably going to be a pretty good pick for them, but just both defensively and offensively for Hong Kong Attitude. I think that's where they can really utilize K4 on Genji. There's so many levels that he can get up and down and actually contest high ground, push people off, if not flat out kill them, and then we've got to talk about his Dragon Blades coming out as well. Throw a Nano Boost onto that, there's so much open space for him to maneuver around with, especially if he gets resets right. He can be all over the place. It might be getting a little bit trickier around the third checkpoint, but there's still that one wall that you can jump over and come out of almost nowhere. So I think for at least K4, his Genji should get a lot of work done on Dorado.
Correct me if I'm wrong, did they not pick Dorado against Blank yesterday?
Yeah.
I think they did. So, which would actually suggest, I mean, they lost that map, but it would suggest that they feel confident enough on Dorado to pick it. I actually think you raise an interesting point there. I'm kind of expecting a Dorado pick now.
Yeah, I think it's that or Gibraltar, because Gibraltar is the other map which they've most commonly picked against basically everyone up until most recently. So yeah. And they've had plenty of good success in Gibraltar as well, including a map win against Blank. So look, they lost Dorado to Blank, but they won Gibraltar against Blank. So that's an argument in and of itself. That
is actually an interesting point. You're right, and I couldn't help but be reminded of their series against Matchy, where Gibraltar was a bit of a. It was a show. It was a show for on both sides as well. That was the one where Matchy watched them cap the first point. That was where there were tactical visors targeted at walls. There was all sorts of crazy things happening.
The one where Nonez had a thing for Diva and just
could not and that was the last time we saw Hong Kong Attitude pick Watch Point Gibraltar. So actually maybe they're avoiding it. I think so, yeah. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was,
The Matchy series was after
So maybe that's why they're avoiding it.
But it's so entertaining.
It was, like for entertainment value, I would like them to pick it because who knows what's going to happen.
I want them to pick it so maybe we can actually see the third checkpoint in the OPC. We haven't actually been to the third checkpoint of Gibraltar.
We have once. We have once. You're quite right. We did once, but we've barely seen Gibraltar get picked in the first place, so that's part of why it's been so rare. To that end, though, we haven't seen the final point of Dorado much either.
We've seen it with AHQ versus Blank in particular.
Notably, in fact.
Notably, yes, notably.
There we go. Matt, pick us through.
So yeah, there it is. So yeah, it is a practice thing. I think where the real argument goes for Dorado is in terms of Hong Kong Attitude just played it last night, and they picked it last night, and it does come down to what you practice in the week, what your preparation regimen was, and for the Hong Kong Attitude, it looks like Dorado was in that practice regimen. They said, look, we're going to be away twice this weekend. Yeah. Our escort, should we get there, is going to be Dorado.
Yeah, whether we win or lose, whatever happens up to that point, this is the map we pull out. So there we have it. Yeah, it makes total sense. So what specifically are we expecting out of this? Because their match against Blank last night was mixed. So what do they actually need to fix off that?
So some teams, for some reason whatsoever, like to position either way too far forward on the first point or way too far back. And I think last night against Blank, we actually saw both teams really quite far back. In fact, when Blank came out on their attack, I was so confused. I thought there were no defenders. They were so far back. Hong Kong Attitude was
they were like at the back of the courtyard that is the first cap.
They were literally hiding behind the fountain in the windows just to shoot down on the archway as it came up. And then there wasn't actually any contest on the payload until it was just before the fountain. So really, teams, I think you could be a little bit less careful than that, but you also don't want to be losing all sense of safety and just pushing right outside the spawn.
Well, in any case, Dorado, yeah, Hong Kong Attitude, they have some things to fix, even though they did obviously prep this map. We'll have to see if they've kind of shored things up after the Lank game yesterday, which was where they lost that series as well. DeToNator will see what kind of success they can find on it, defending first.
Now, we don't see, in fact, I don't remember seeing DeToNator on this at all. I can't remember if we've seen DeToNator on Dorado or not, but I'd be interested to know what kind of initial setup they're going to go for. Are they going to play aggressively here? Are they not going to play aggressively here? It does look a little bit passive in the sense that they're going to take this usual standard roof and maybe just play it for a little bit before they take off.
Yeah, looking to just kind of sound out the defense. Maybe see what holes can be poked in it before they go ahead and start the hole poking. And we'll have to see how DeToNator can hold this. They're actually backing up, giving a lot of space here, not quite committing to this archway just yet.
It's a good amount of movement from Hong Kong Attitude, specifically because they're not running a rain height, so the flanking is going to be important here. Look on the left as well. Eventually a jump is going to have to come through, so Hong Kong Attitude, they gotta find that moment.
They do, but to that same vein, actually, DeToNator kind of need to find their position to dig in the heels, because so far the payload has just kept moving largely uncontested. It's been contested for split seconds, but the motion has been forward. There's the 2 kills that should be the signal there. Getting both the DPS means there's nothing really for the tanks to do. Going to full retreat. Don't lose any more members though, which is very, very crucial there.
Extremely good retreat from Hong Kong Attitude. They knew straight away, look, 2 members going down. Gotta be careful, you might drop the mech here, which is gonna be really annoying for Jin Kao.
Yeah.
In fact, Jin Kao might just, I think you can go back to the spawn room, swap Keras, and just swap back to Diva, and maybe you'll get your mech back.
There is also, there is
actually
a ledge you can jump off right by that spawn. It's the only place on this map you can really, not quite the only actually, there is a second one further on, but one of the few places you can do that, and smart call there, it keeps the ult charge that you did have.
Yeah, cool. That's actually really important, like just as you mentioned, keeping the ult charge is important because had he switched character, he would have lost it.
Yeah, you reset it.
Good call to go for the suicide.
Speaking of ults though, it's very much in DeToNator's favor here. They have a lot of defensive ones to use, and Hong Kong Attitude can get very hard pushed back rather, by this whole hog.
Someone's going to go here because there are a lot of ultimates from both teams and everybody's just feeling each other out. The shield will eventually go down. There it is, Samurai D gets pushed back.
That's the commit. Hong Kong K4 actually going deep into this one, trying to deflect up as much as that whole hog. That forces out both defensive ultimates for Hong Kong Attitude, but the pick comes through and last someone goes down into Samurai D. For once, it's not a Ting who is actually sitting there ulting. Yoshiharu does get back into the mech, but they have not secured any kills and unfortunately are just going to get beaten back.
Well, it's going to be a bit of a fallout for DeToNator, but I don't think they're going to fall out for long. They should be able to get back in here, not in time.
It's already capped, even as they were starting, trying to come in for the counterattack, and actually that just means because the cap had gone through, they get completely destroyed on the retreat and feed a bunch of extra ultimate charge over.
Also, it gives Hong Kong Attitude the positioning power. Now, look at this HKA with K4 already right ahead, checking spawns, checking high ground, and the whole rest of Hong Kong Attitude should be looking to secure that high ground before DeToNator can set up themselves.
Yeah, this is a lot of free payload distance.
But they're not.
Yeah, it's a lot of free payload distance, and you know, actually, Hong Kong Attitude should have maybe got the Samurai D drops onto the low ground. Shaolin actually well reacted to there. Oh, good hook. Barely gets out of that one. Yeah, saved by Jin Kao. But unfortunately, Anakin does still find his opening. Not a lot of getting picked off in response, though. Hong Kong Attitude getting routed back and forced out of this one, basically.
That was an interesting place. The Earth Shadow came down from Samurai D, and both K4 and Jin Kao got caught in it. It just looked like they're taking a nap on the card itself because they were directly sitting on the back of the card and they just fell over. So really interesting that they got hit there.
They're like, oh, if we play dead.
Yeah. But the good thing is they had the cover of the cart, so because their hitbox was lying down, you couldn't exactly shoot through the cart to get there.
We actually just saw that Diva thing right there, actually. Jin Kao did not have the mech, went back, swapped off onto Roadhog and then back off, and you see it actually resets that ultimate charge. Just for those of you who didn't know that was a mechanic. And that actually does mean they're a little bit further back.
I wasn't lying earlier, it's confirmed.
Yeah, it is a real thing. We're not just telling fibs about this game. That's going to be the whole hog coming out actually to try and counter out K4, but he gets dotted off anyway. Deflects a chunk of the whole hog and goes in for De La Vie, finding Anakin instead, rather. Doesn't quite catch the other members he was looking for. But hey, it's a one fight, and they got a lot of mileage out of that. Forced out a ton of ultimates as well. It's a lot of payload distance, and they kind of... Actually, they don't quite reset the ult economy because they committed a tactical visor off the back end of that.
Well, the good thing is Delave actually, he delayed the cart push Delayed the cart push quite a bit, which means that for all the effort Hong Kong had there, for all the kills that they got, they don't get the full cap out, which gives DeToNator the opportunity, should they want to take it.
Yeah, and they're going to go for it now. That's the sound barrier out already for Hong Kong Attitude, and they have a Transcendence to commit to, but it's not really going to matter because DeToNator already kind of struggling in this fight. Lose Saihade, which is the one they really wanted to keep alive with that sound barrier that got committed. Now, Samurai D and Anakin getting completely pushed out of this one. Hong Kong Attitude already grabbing the cap, actually. It's now just all about making space, getting more ultimate charge.
I don't know what's going on for DeToNator because that's the second time in a row now, 2 out of 2 caps where they wanted to go for the final contest and then there's just Hong Kong Attitude cap anyway and it just all goes for naught and they end up feeding members onto the card itself. Hong Kong Attitude pick up a ton of kills, they push on through and it just looks really embarrassing for DeToNator.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say Hong Kong Attitude aren't playing well, they are, but it does feel like DeToNator are kind of giving it to them in a lot of ways. They're making a ton of mistakes on the execution here, and it's really suffering.
Specifically on the retakes, now they're going to go for the hold here. Samurai D changed onto the Winston, going to go for more dive-oriented play. Might end up being a good idea, specifically in terms of controlling the high ground itself, and this is where DeToNator want to make their hold, right around this corner.
Right around this corner, Shaolin, what can he find? Having already picked off one. They had the ultimates as well, the full run of them. That's going to be the self-destruct out. Tried to actually finish off Yoshiharu before he could get the mech back, but didn't quite get the timing. Samurai D committing his ultimate, but the kills are still coming up Hong Kong Attitude. Even getting Samurai D mid-ultimate, they are so disciplined with their target selection here, and DeToNator now going to get kettled into the space as they try and come through with the respawns, which are coming through scattered as it is. Yep. Hong Kong Attitude on track to cap. The self-destruct is there to make space, and there's not even a contest really coming out of DeToNator. They're committing the nano visor and gets completely destroyed. And that's going to be the cap coming through for Hong Kong Attitude any minute now, surely.
And this is why you need to have your tanks go in there first. And Saihate learns it the hard way. Even a Transcendence for Hong Kong Attitude just to secure things. If DeToNator had trouble killing the Hong Kong Attitude members before, they're not going to get anything done now.
Delays again. But look, DeToNator's members are still dying. He commits the sound barrier onto himself as well, just trying to run down the clock. But running down the clock assumes you are going to cap. That was not a DeToNator that can cap.
Yeah, it's not looking good. I'm not feeling great about DeToNator so far. Defensively, what they achieved is they really made Hong Kong Attitude work for it in terms of time, because with that was like a minute 30 left on the clock for Hong Kong Attitude, roughly around that. It's not the fastest cap ever, so DeToNator have achieved in the terms of not a super successful in defense in terms of holding out, but in terms of time spent, if we do get into time bank, DeToNator may be feeling pretty good. But we got to get into time bank, and the question is, can DeToNator actually cap it through?
Yep, that is a very big question. And, well, it's about a minute and a half on the clock for Hong Kong Attitude. Minute 21, if I'm not mistaken. Look, we've seen crazier things. Let's be completely frank. We've seen much crazier things. We already saw crazier things. Yeah, we already saw crazier things before on Assault. So, look, maybe DeToNator can. I don't feel like their odds are too great just because of how that went, but heck, maybe they do it. Okay, let's actually really go into that. If they do it, how? What do they need to do?
They would have to snowball in a way that Hong Kong Attitude failed to do so. So, for example, getting the first cap, Hong Kong Attitude didn't really take advantage of the initial positioning advantages that they could have had. This is something that DeToNator can do if they want. And honestly, a lot of teams do that. Even going into the third cap as well, it just depends on where your ults are sitting. If you commit too many ults capping the second checkpoint, you don't have the ults to snowball through on the third, which is where you really need the ults. So if DeToNator can get a couple of huge wins economy-wise, that's really going to push them forward in terms of timing.
You know, for an area that is meant to be quite impoverished, these houses look really nice.
Oh man, is Dorado really meant to be impoverished?
Well, it's not like impoverished. I don't know, there's a lot of gang violence still, so certainly not. It's a bit of a rough area. In any case, look at this. Is a Ting about to die?
This is a rough area.
He gets back in time, actually. He manages to retreat safely, but they really were trying to put the hurt in him here. This is an interesting strat out of DeToNator. I do kind of like this, actually.
This is similar to what Blank typically do or have done in Dorado previously, which is run the Pharah and also the Genji, but they also have a Tracer on top of that, which is something DeToNator are not doing, but they also don't have to. They're looking for a flank. You actually see one of these flanking DPSs is on with the team, and the other one goes around on that side wall. This time, it's going to be the Genji on the side wall. It's going to be Saihate on the front lines.
Yeah, and Saihate really what he's trying to do is get into the skies and just put the pressure on to open the way for Anakin so that he can catch someone who is a little bit in disarray.
And by the way, we don't see Saihate on Pharah much, so that's going to be interesting.
This is a little bit different. Normally we'd actually see Anakin on Pharah, in fact. So maybe this is that they don't want to put Saihate on the Genji. In any case, they are actually making the space. It is working. They're slowly pushing back Hong Kong Attitude. But yeah, losing Anakin does mean that they may lose their opportunity to fight. But they're keeping this one going. They've still got the pressure on. And Dotlov will have a res soon. So if they can get a few more picks here. Anakin also has a shorter walk back than CQB, who did just go down there as well. So they're still trying to commit to this one. This is a nice one for them. Trying to train down a Ting. They lost Saihate though. Yeah, they probably are going to have to raise. Maybe waiting for Samurai D to go down. This would be a great moment to raise actually. Dotlov goes in position. There he goes. Actually gets the two of them. Anakin going to come in with a blade. They get K4 as he starts the visor. Good timing out of Anakin. Unfortunately gets traded back by a Ting who is really laying down the hurt now. When he doesn't die, he does get a lot of kills, and that was the res and everything else for DeToNator. Ouch.
Yep, a Ting angry now. A Ting want to get kills. So.
Yeah, you've killed him enough times that you've actually activated beast mode at Ting.
Which is by the way, what Ting was really great, what made him really stand out in the first few weeks was his ability to just pull out a large number of kills, specifically on Reinhardt.
Yeah.
When you look at what Zhong and Erikin are doing now on Winston, that's what a Ting used to do on Reinhardt, and maybe he's doing it again. If Hong Kong Attitude to get a really clean win, maybe that's exactly what a team needs to continue to be able to do.
Yeah, they still need to find a better way to unlock him. Jinkao goes for a good one. Yeah, it's completely Eden though. That was it was cute, but actually that wasn't even a reaction out of Yoshiharu. That was just already running to try and block for his DPS. But in any case, Hong Kong Attitude do get the kill onto Samurai D and force Anakin back. So they do still successfully fight despite that getting eaten.
I really like Jinkao's movement though. He's, you know, getting that jump over the little...
Taking advantage of Zarya's athleticism.
Yeah.
She is an Olympian.
It's true. Team Russia, weightlifter.
Yeah.
Alright, no, but seriously, for DeToNator, they have not wasted, but they've used a lot of time here. By now, Hong Kong Attitude already capped out the first point. And we're still waiting.
They're committing.
Sound barrier.
Double sound barrier. Saihate gets slept as well mid-rocket barrage, so he doesn't get much for it. He's back in the skies now. They are actually pushing Hong Kong Attitude back. Desperately needs to get the kills. Dotlov down. Means no res if this goes pear-shaped. It is all on now. And a great earth shatter. A Ting angry. There is nothing they can do to stop this German beast. And, ouch. Man, imagine if they'd had a res.
Remember the Ting from the first few weeks where the compliments were so good, we said, look, precision Hong Kong engineering, and this is what it looks like.
yeah, it actually does, absolutely. So there we go. Getting flashbacks here, DeToNator. They're remembering week 1 Hong Kong Attitude. I mean, we said, look, this was a DeToNator that we didn't feel confident could actually cap out. And look, they're struggling to even cap this first point. Even when they've had all resources brought to bear, they haven't been able to do it. Now they're swapping off this Genji.
I'll tell you what, last time on Hanamura, we went into the overtime and somehow they magically got the full cap out.
Yeah, so never mind what I just said. Who knows what's going to happen? Jinkao, will it get eaten? That's the big question here.
Nope.
No, it doesn't. He gets it through, and a reasonable Earth Shatter to respond. Actually, a great one to respond because they pick a Ting. He didn't actually quite die first. It was technically Mango. Dotlov waiting in the wings in case he needs to res, but it's probably not going to need to do it because they're winning the fight anyway. Need to shut down K4 though because he does still have attack visor, but smartly backs off. The cap goes through in overtime. I'm going to stop talking. I don't know what I'm saying, apparently.
This is the best overtime team in the OPC, apparently. Yeah, right? Because
if a Ting gets angry after he dies 20 times, DeToNator get good when it's overtime. That's how you unlock these teams respectively.
I mean, what DeToNator should do is they can just sit and spawn until overtime. That way they can't feed ultimates and then just attack only in overtime. They'll win.
Pretty much, actually. Yeah, well, look, already Yoshiharu kind of getting damaged down. Oh, Dotlov is picked. That's going to be the tactical visor nano boost combo. Gets the full wipe. Smartly committing no ultimates here, DeToNator. Actually, not quite the full wipe. Anakin did get out, but yeah, no ultimates committed for DeToNator is good. They have absorbed a couple. They're not going to get a snowball per se, but they do still have an opportunity to get a lot of momentum.
And they're still holding on to the res from the first cap as well, so they have the opportunity to make a very aggressive play here. Maybe force out some ults out of Hong Kong.
Sneaky hog.
And then get in the members back into play after that. So That's something they can do.
How does that guy balance there? Jinkel dropping down into the low ground, and Anakin coming from behind. The Justice finds CQB. Apparently he committed some crimes, but that's all it finds, unfortunately. They are pushing Hong Kong Attitude back as the Ting is going to go down. They did pick Saihari, which was nice. Gets raised back. Good tempo play, I suppose, but Hong Kong Attitude are kind of pushed back. They're not exactly committing to any more fights, so it's not like a tempo for fight reasons. Just kind of one of the extra members.
All right, we got another Graviton Surge on its way. Earthshatter as well, ready for Hong Kong Attitude. They've been winning off of these tank ultimates for a large majority of the time. Mercy and Bruce is actually down as well, so... Ooh.
K4 stays alive, but they do pick Jinkel, which means actually no grab. Mercy down and not close enough to the res anyway, so they're not going to get it during this fight, and it would have had to been a log one at that. Good pressure onto Mango, but he looks like he's going to get out. So Hardy is kind of lacking his pocket Mercy now, so he's quite exposed up there. Does find CQB. They want to commit to this anyway with the sound barrier out, but Anakin is dead as well. Yoshiharu is going to throw out the self-destruct, does not get anything forward. That is a decent Graviton. They get delayed, but they don't get much further follow-up, and this is just a really messy fight on both fronts. I kind of want DeToNator to back up just because they don't have much time now that it is going sour for them.
Yeah, well, they need to be able to regroup here. That's really important. One of the ways DeToNator are able to win is they coordinate really well during the overtime, but that requires all of your members. So if anyone now dies for DeToNator, this is where it gets really risky. Also, the cart is forward enough that no one from DeToNator will be able to respawn and reinforce in time if they get into trouble.
That was a really scattered approach for DeToNator. They were not concerted, and already K4 with the Nano Visor combo has got a bunch of kills. The Ting doesn't actually get too much with that Earthshatter, but Samurai D, he's kind of beset on all sides as he's trying to go to the payload just to keep the contest alive. They don't have the numbers to do it. They don't have the ultimates to do it either, and they made some swaps there, and it is going to go the way of Hong Kong Attitude. No overtime miracles for this one, and DeToNator do fall 3-1.
You get 3 wishes, and I think all of them were used up earlier on, so I mean...
And I mean, the first one you used up yesterday when you played HQ.
Pretty much.
Please give us a map, granted. And then they looked at it, they're like, oh, geez, we've only got 2, and we've got to win 3 games. How do we do it?
The math is not going to work out for them.
No.
I actually don't know what this is.
We don't see this very often.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You pull out the Transcendence.
And then, of course, you get a headshot on Saihate. And what else do you do?
More headshots.
You contribute. He contributed a lot. Didn't get a lot of kill credits.
You talk to people about Transcendence. And
yeah. Have you heard the good word about tranquility? Yes. Would you like to experience it for yourself? Experience
tranquility.
I'll be honest, though, cool. if there was a floating robot who could glow and, like, cure my illnesses, I would believe. I'm going to be completely frank. I would be a convert to tranquility.
Because it's just nanobots. It's nothing to do with the iris. It's just nanobots. That's all the magic is in Overwatch.
You're no fun.
Sorry.
Sound like a real expert on Overwatch lore here.
Yeah. This is nanobots. It's all nanobots.
Congratulations to Hong Kong Attitude, though, and it's actually you kind of got to congratulate DeToNator for that one map as well. They're now getting super consistent on Assault, even though it's shaky. They're consistently winning it, but
where they weren't before.
But not winning it in like a commanding fashion. Not winning it like, that was definitely their map. Winning it like, whoa, they just made it past the line.
Yeah, but I think more importantly, they're not losing in total shutouts. Like even the maps they're not winning, they are looking a little bit more concerted. They're looking a little bit better. Look, they've still got things to fix, but I mean, this is the second to last team. We're not expecting great things out of them. Marginal improvements, even decent improvements is good enough. They can be happy with that, and they are making good improvements.
Yeah, I mean, look at this series just in a vacuum, right? Except Oasis, we'll forget that happened. But
in a vacuum that doesn't include Oasis.
King's Row, right? It looked, even though it was a loss, it looked a whole lot better for DeToNator. Even if they were using a strategy they've been using for quite a while, it still worked. They still managed to get a lot of progress out of it. And then, of course, Assault, they did win. And even if it was a bit of a magical moment during overtime, they did still manage to get the full point captured. And then even Dorado, their defense, it seemed a little bit shaky, but at least they had the objective in mind of stopping the payload moving whenever they could, because they lost a lot of fights. There's no question about that, but they were sticking to that payload for all of those fights, and it did delay the payload because, hey, look, Hong Kong Attitude, they ended up with just over a minute, about a minute and a half in their time bank, when really, with how many fights Hong Kong Attitude were winning during that, you'd expect a lot more. And then their attack probably could have looked a little bit better, but it's still, they brought out some of that overtime magic and still got a little bit of distance on the second checkpoint, so that's okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it is DeToNator's day as well, so they do get to face off against Matchy. arguably not their day in that they didn't pick up the win, and I would also argue that Matchy are the harder team to beat of the two, but look, there are some good takeaways from that, so I kind of want to extend this if we can. Based on the improvement we have seen, what extra did DeToNator need to be doing to really get it over the line?
I think they need to be able to expand, in terms of preparation anyway, what they can achieve on certain maps. So for example, if we're going to look at King's Row, it's not, look, we only practice the Sombra strat, we don't know how to do anything else here. You want to be confident enough that you can do just about anything, and you have the Sombra strat as your back pocket sort of pickup rather than your go-to every time, which is what it should be.
Something else as well that was pretty clear in this series was there, and this is going to be a hard thing to fix, right? Because it's just something that's going to take time, but it's their execution of a lot of fights. And I've been saying this for quite a while, right? They'll have an idea in their head of how the perfect fight does go, but then they don't execute on it properly. In fact, we saw quite often a lot of fights they'd go in, they'd have an ultimate advantage. They were playing that part of the game reasonably well, right? But then they'd go in 4 ultimates and get nothing out of it. And especially on things like Control, where the other team is still racking up percentage points and still going towards a win, you're committing more ultimates than the enemy team. They're still getting more close to victory, and now you're suddenly behind. And that's something that really, really bites them hard. So if they can fix that issue, which again, it's such a hard ask, but it's their execution on a lot
At
of
the
fights.
very least, they are looking inconsistent on execution, but they're not looking bad, and that's where I say they've kind of made some improvements already. Is to start with, they were just misfiring constantly, and it was one of the biggest glaring weaknesses of them. And the only place they seemed to be able to consistently go off was like literally the first fight of any given map on Control, which isn't really anything, right? That's not enough to win games in and of itself if you can't then turn that into further well-executed fights. So inconsistency is arguably better than poor performances, because now if you've got good showings and you can bring the rest of them up to that level, then you can start pulling out wins.
It's actually also something you mentioned there is, you know, they do get ahead, and this is a team that when they get ahead, they don't have the ability to keep pulling it further and further, building more advantage, and eventually closing out a game. They get ahead, and the other team bounces back because DeToNator are somehow not able to look at a situation and say, what do we need to do here to maintain our lead, and what do the other team need to try and do to get to swing it back in their favor? So how do we prevent that while keeping our lead so we can win the game? That's something that they're failing to do also.
It's an interesting point you make there. I think you hit upon something quite interesting, and maybe that's kind of an endemic thing here, and maybe something that's a little bit insurmountable is they do seem to just struggle to read the game. Man of the match, by the way, is going to go over to Shaolin, and I think that's a fairly well-deserved one. Was on Tracer for the overwhelming majority of that, and really did impress. A lot of times was just an unsung hero, but yeah, I'm not surprised to see that.
Was a very, very sung hero when he got a triple kill.
Yeah,
that was a really great.
We were singing songs.
That was his like one-hit wonder, and then he faded back into obscurity. But he's always been a good artist, man. You just don't know.
He is always, exactly. He has been always a good artist because his consistency of damage output really puts Hong Kong Attitude really further ahead, especially if K4 goes down.
Yeah, well, with that, going to be jumping over to an interview with, I think, Jin Kao.
Yep, Jin Kao, the older brother of Shaolin.
嘿，金浩想要请问一下，你们在国王大道这张地图啊，其实你们一开始是摆出了3-1-2的防守阵容，但是遇到汉影的时候就完全被瓦解了。然后接下来你们就换成了2-2-2这样的阵型，这样的策略是不是跟大家分享一下？
So you lost to Sombra, then you changed up your
只要
composition.
碰到汉影，莱因哈特这只角色就是充电宝，他开个大，不然就是一个右键，莱因哈特就爆定了。所以我们就想说
Sombra really
就
destroys
是替换掉莱因哈特这只角色
our
然后
Reinhardt
换一个阵
composition.
容去跟他们做抗衡。
So we
所以是在
entirely
赛前
changed
就
up
已经讨论过
Reinhardt.
这样的，
以前就讨论过，好久
以
以前
前就讨论过哦，
We
所以就是
thought
有
about
一
this
套这
before,
样
what we
配
would
套
need to
措
do.
施就对了。那其实赛季现在已经过半了嘛，那目前排名是第5名，对你们来说会
So
不会有
currently
一些
fifth
压力
place.
呢？
You feel
压
the
力当
pressure
然
of
很
being
大啊。
fifth. We
因为
do
只有前
absolutely
3 名
feel
可以
that
进入到
pressure.
季后赛。
对啊，不过这就是我们还有可以加强的地方啊。然后
We've still got room to
对，我们
improve.
离顶点还很远啊，所以说回去还要再多练习多检
And
讨。
after this, we're
你
going to
刚刚也
continue
讲到说
practicing.
有需要加
working
强的
on
地
our
方，那
issues.
对于你个人或是团队，你觉得目前现阶段还有哪个部分是可以再升级的呢？
So where do you
升
feel
级
like
就是
your team
战
needs to
略啊，
improve?
还有沟通能力啊，然后还有我女团的大今天又被吸掉了。
Yeah,
所以但是还是要再加油
communication
哦
in。general.
所以说
Also, I lost my
就是
ultimate to
个人
Demon
能力也
today.
要提升啊，然后 团队上的战术方面的东西也要提升。
还是恭喜你们赢得了这场比赛，也谢谢君浩接受我们的访问，谢谢君浩。
谢谢大家。
那也要提醒一下我们现场的观众朋友们，等一下中场休息的时候会有 DTN 的队伍问答赠奖，千万不要错过喽。接下来就把时间交给沙发区的队伍访问。
Well, interesting to kind of hear the man's thoughts. And you've brought it up a couple of times, actually, but yeah, he's the older brother of Shaolin.
That's true.
Yeah. And, well, Shaolin got the man of the match, so I don't know, what is that, big brother of the match? I don't know. I don't know. In any case, yeah, well-deserved win by Hong Kong Attitude. Looked a bit odd at some points, but what game against DeToNator.GOLD isn't odd these days? That's kind of becoming the most consistent thing about them, if nothing else. In DeToNator.GOLD, it is their day. They will go up against Matchy Esports next up. Do we have any preliminary thoughts about that? Just based off what we've seen now?
Yeah, I think DeToNator will need to step it up just one peg further against Matchy because, like you said earlier, Matchy are expected to be better than Hong Kong Attitude still.
And I think, yeah, they've got to rely a little bit less on the overtime magic that they've been pulling out as well. They've got to be a little bit more consistent because some of their fights do look fantastic, but a lot of the time the other ones just fall quite flat.
Yeah, well, with that, we are going to be getting that upcoming soon, but DeToNator are also going to have to be recovering from a loss in taking on Matchy. That will be coming up after a brief break. So now it's time to make 2-minute noodles. If that 155 earlier wasn't enough for you, we'll be coming back with DeToNator.GOLD versus Matchy Esports, so don't go anywhere.